Lisa, what's up? You hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
I hear you good.
Okay,
Uh,
perfect.
I guess we start with a little intro. I guess you could talk about yourself, where you come from, and what got you
Okay.
into alternative health, what they call alternative health.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so I guess I'll start with my name and age and like all the basic stuff. So my name's Lisa. I'm from Canada. I was born and raised in Scarborough, Ontario. Um, I grew up playing hockey and soccer. I started playing hockey at 8 and started playing soccer at 11, and I played all the way up until I was 17. I ended up getting jaw surgery, so it kind of knocked me off my path. Um, between the ages of well, when I started playing sports, I was a meat eater, like I was eating meat and stuff like that. When I turned 17, I started questioning everything, and I was like, what's really real? Like, I don't know. I just started questioning stuff, trying to like understand life, understand reality. I feel like a lot of people around that time were kind of doing the same thing because I have some friends who I wasn't even close with at the time who
So,
were
what year
also
was that?
questioning.
My bad. What year
Pardon?
was that? What year was that?
I want to say, like, I mean, I'm so sorry, my math is horrible, but like I'm 28 now. So that was like what, 10 years ago, like 9 years ago. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
so yeah, like
Okay.
2015, 2014, around there. 2013, like 2012. The Gregorian 2012 and all of that. So I started like questioning stuff. So I was 17, I got jaw surgery. I wasn't able to eat any solids and I couldn't play the elite level soccer that I grew up playing. So I started drinking liquids. I lost a lot of weight. And it kind of messed up my confidence because I had a very strong physique at the time. I was like 155 pounds in muscle mass, with animal protein, of course. And then I went down to like 120, and I'm 5'6", so I could afford to be a little heavier than that. Um, and then when I turned 18, I started discovering like things that eating meat does to you. So I was like, what the hell? Like I didn't know that like eating animals causes you to have more
You hear me? I can't hear you. Damn. Shit. I'm gonna have to send you another link if you can hear me.
Hold on 1 second. Yeah, so I stopped eating meat and stuff at 18, went cold turkey. It was not an easy path. It's been 10 years on this journey. There were moments where I would flip flop and stuff like that. But while I was doing that, I also started to do a lot of research on like, the melanated people of the America. Hello?
Yeah, not bad. Ever since this app got bought by Spotify, I be doing this shit sometimes. But yeah, nah. So you were saying eating meat does what? You said it causes you to have more, and then you cut out right there.
Oh, say that one more time because it cut out again when you were trying to recap.
Oh yeah, nah. As soon as you were like, yeah, eating meat causes you to have more, it cut out.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, what I was saying was, I learned about how eating meat can cause you to have more health issues in the long run, and then also that it causes you to have more parasites. Um, and then I also learned about the energetic side of eating animals because a lot of animals get tortured and slaughtered during the farming process, and so therefore when you're consuming meat and stuff like that, you're not only taking on, the parasites and the worms, but you're taking on the suffering and like the energy. It's like an energy transfer. And that was basically what I learned. So it wasn't necessarily about the animals. for me, it was more so like the spiritual side of consuming animals. And then I started to really explore deeper into it. And within some time, I think around 2019, I want to say like 20, maybe 2018 or 2016, 2017.
Hello?
Hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. You said that was 20. You said that was 2016, 2017 that you got
That I
into
that I
veganism.
started, yeah, that I started to learn a little bit more about like different types of vegan diets and stuff like that. Um, and then I realized that like the diet is really a stepping stone to really not needing food and not needing, and then it made me understand why we're even doing this in the first place. It's not necessarily for the aesthetic of like saying like, oh, I'm vegan, I'm vegetarian. It's literally to basically train your body to realize that it doesn't have any needs. Um, Not necessarily that we don't need anything, because of course we need air, we need sunlight, we need like nature and stuff like that. But it kind of just made me realize that it's not more so for the vanity aspect. It's not about being like, oh, I'm vegan. Like, it's not about that. It's more about a stepping stone to realizing that your body is a self sustaining machine, basically. And that, so like I kind of went really quickly because when I get really into something, I like to study in depth. And when I got into this health kick, I was telling my whole family, like, you guys need to stop eating animals. Like, y'all need, like we can eat what we want to eat. And I'm like going hard at them. And then I realized that like when I stopped telling them stuff and I started doing it myself, now they're coming to me asking me, like, what do I do? Like, how do I do this? And I'm just like, oh, so I really didn't have to really say much. I could just let my actions speak for me. But it wasn't an easy path. I did like fall back on dairy a few times. But that was during the time when I thought that I needed, like, I don't know how to explain it, but it was more like I still had that consciousness where I thought that I needed certain things in order to sustain myself. Like I thought that my energy predominantly came from food. But then when I changed the way that I saw it, when I started to learn about the breath work and I started to learn about just like everything, when I started to really dive deeper into the metaphysical aspect of the lifestyle, I realized that it's really just a mindset, and how you think affects everything. It affects how you really do everything, how you approach everything, as far as the diet and stuff like that. So um, yeah, so it's been 10 years on the journey. I'm at a point now where if I really wanted to, I could really go days with little to no food and be fine. But for the sake of me living in Canada and being surrounded by a lot of people that aren't really on that wave, for me to really feel like I'm sane amongst insanity, I kind of have to kind of blend a little bit, which is it's I don't know how to explain it. It's kind of a weird. It's like I'm not surrounded by people that have that level of consciousness to understand to understand it. So when I'm doing it, there's like a very big push in the opposite direction. Like I feel like there's a lot of resistance around me when I'm moving in that direction. So here and there I'll do fasting. I do colon hydrotherapy like maybe once every few months. Um, and I do practice fasting. If I ever get a cold or something or I feel under the weather, I don't eat for like 24 hours, sometimes 48 hours. Um, I got into the meditation and stuff early, but I feel like for me, it's really just focus. And because I'm really one of the only people that I know in my area that is really deep into this stuff, it feels a little hard for me to really stay the path because,
Yeah.
uh, because I don't really have any, I just don't, there's like no one. I'm surrounded by a lot of Black people. Um, and a lot of the Black people around me, they're not on that. So it's like,
I guess you just say your back. I guess you got to say your background for that to make sense now. Like
yeah,
because
yeah,
people like.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, oh yeah. So let me add that in. So I'm a black girl. I'm visibly Black. My both my parents are Jamaican. They're both born in Jamaica, so I'm Jamaican descent. Born and raised in Scarborough. Scarborough is predominantly Black people, Caribbean people, really, West Indian. Yeah, so I'm surrounded by a lot of Black people. It's comfortable for me. I like being around people that look like me. I don't know. I just like being in those environments because I feel like there's just a common understanding. Um, I guess because I just grew up around it, except for when I played hockey. I was around a lot of white people, a lot of Italian people, and
Yeah,
just
I was gonna say I don't know too many black folks playing hockey,
no,
but
I like
Canada, I know it's Canada though.
yeah, yeah, yeah. In Canada, you'll see that. You'll see some Black girls playing. It was very interesting because there was like maybe three of us on the team, and then everybody else was white. But we were dominant. We killed it. Just natural athletic ability, and I love that. I love that I was afforded the opportunity to be able to be in something like that growing up because I grew up in um, not the projects, because I don't want to compare it to America because the States is definitely different than it is here as far as like the ghetto, I guess you could say. But I did grow up in like government housing.
Like that
So
low income housing,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So like I was one of those low income girls, but then my stepfather has a really good paying job. So he was able to pay for me to go and play hockey because his good friend has two sons that were in the NHL. So I used to go to games a lot over here. And one day I was just like, hey, I want to play hockey. Like I want to try it out. And then I did. And I ended up being really dominant. I played left defense. And honestly, when you watch hockey, it's like, what the hell? Like, this is just like a bunch of guys just like smashing into each other. But it's so freeing to like just be skating and just gliding across the ice. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's really good. It's really good conditioning. It really toned my body up from a young age. So it was really alarming to a lot of people when they saw me after the jaw surgery and how slim I had gotten and how much my body changed. And I think for me, a huge part of my ego growing up was about my physique because, like a lot of people look at women's bodies and they're like, yeah, her ass is fat. She has thick thighs and she looks good. So like for me, that was something that I kind of based my attraction levels on. And when I lost all the weight, I kind of had to reevaluate like my value and my worth and like where that comes from. There was just a lot going on after that surgery, man. It made me reflect on a lot of things. And then I started getting into the health stuff. I started studying, and I feel like that was always a part of me. My grandmother was very deep in the church, and I have a lot of like grandparents that were deep into like, I mean, in Jamaica, there's a lot of spirituality there too. And I just always felt called towards this type of way of living. Um, it was always a part of me and something, I don't know what was going on in the universe in 2012, but like a lot of people were questioning stuff. And there was like, I don't know what that was, but I definitely felt that change. And I was really deep into it. Like I started studying a lot. And then when I came across your content, um, that resonated with me on a different level. And then because like obviously you're mixed race and people obviously wouldn't assume that because visibly it's not as obvious. When I would bring up your content with people who aren't white or with Black people, they're like, "Oh, you're listening to this this white guy," and I'm like,
Yeah.
you know, I'm like, and then I see you post about that. Like, people don't really want to hear that stuff when it like from someone that looks like that. But it's like for me, it was always about the message, and it really did propel me in a serious way to where like it wasn't even like I needed it as a crutch. It was more like when you give that information, it's like I can help myself with it. And then I can actually be a light for other people. It's a really amazing thing that happens when you're authentic with yourself and you share what you learn, and then someone else like can awaken to who they are through that, and then they can do the same for others. So it really helped me with my with diving deeper into myself and really becoming more self-aware. 2023 or no 2022 was insanity. I feel like I broke myself, and when I say that I mean like my brain opened up in a different way to where now I kind of feel it's crazy, man. It's like I know that this isn't real, but it's like I know I gotta be a part of it until it's my time to leave the earth. So like I'm just kind of it's like I know I'm an avatar. My body's an avatar here kind of thing. And a huge part of me realizing that was through the breath work and not eating. I did breath work and I fasted for a week straight. Um, and I went in nature. I put my phone down. I was meditating, and I it didn't really take me long to click. I don't know if it's because of DNA. I don't know if it's because of melanin. I don't know what it is, but 1 week straight I dedicated to the breath work and to fasting and eating little to none at all. And I was in the sun. I planted my feet. I was walking on the grass. I went and hugged trees and stuff like that. Hello?
Yeah, man, it's fucking Spotify. You know, I heard you say that. So you spent your week out there, whatever, and you know, you said you planted your feet in the ground, and then it cut off for me.
Oh, okay, okay. So Um, basically, I put a lot of like energy for 1 week into breath work and fasting. And I don't know what happened, but I feel like I guess you could call it kundalini or
Damn, man,
something like
it cut
that.
out
But
again. I can't
I
hear you,
started to
Lee. My bad.
experience like
That's okay.
actually being in my
What's going
body
on
in a
now?
different type of
Hello?
way. And it gave me anxiety. I don't know if the
Oh
anxiety
God.
is from,
I wonder if there's
something that was
another
imbalanced
thing that
within
we
me.
can
I don't know what
use.
it was, but I fasted and I did breath work at the same time for a week straight. And
Hello?
I don't know if it's because of DNA or melanin or whatever it is, but I something clicked in me and I basically ended up understanding like reality in a different way. And it was very scary for me because it made me have a level of respect for the creator in a way that scared me. Like when they talk about fear of the Lord, a lot of people are like, oh, like, God is not an entity that's going to make you fear it, but it's not necessarily fear as in I'm afraid of like a dictator. It's more like a certain level of reverence or respect for the creator that put me here because I could feel that connection in my soul. Like there was something that I could feel just from doing the breath work and fasting. Like I ignited something else in me. And it got to a point to where I was able to go long periods without eating. And at this point in my life now, I know for a fact that if all the food was expensive and no one could buy anything, that I could live off of liquids for an extended period of time. I know I can do it. Like I know just off of that experience that I can do it. Like I know now that eating is optional. It's not a requirement to live for a long time. Um, and I'm 28 and I'm thankful to the creator of the universe that I was able to experience that so I could learn and know this because it's something that will literally shift your entire life. Like when you see the truth about what this all is. And I realize that this isn't real, that like our lives are a reflection of our belief systems, like how we think and view things is what we shape our lives around. But then when you start to unlearn everything that you've been taught, like you get closer and closer to 0 point, um, you start to understand that everything comes from the stillness and that everything is void first, and then we create from that space. And then it made me understand what you were saying about like movement is stillness and motion. Um, it made me understand the Tao Te Ching. I was listening to the Tao Te Ching while I was doing all of that. Like I went like ham. I guess you could say ham. But yeah, like I went crazy. I went crazy with it. Like I really went deep into it. And for me as a black person, I feel like if every black person dedicated 1 week to fasting, juicing, whatever, and breath work, like together, it can't be separated. And meditation and breath work can't be separated either. Like meditating is great to kind of train your mind to focus and to be in the present moment, but breath work is really the root of everything, like breath work and then fasting and then meditation, because the breath work sets the foundation for everything else to flow. And when I was doing the breath work, it made my meditation more effective. It made my fasting easier. It
it just made me become more, I felt like I was a lot more feminine, um, in a more wholesome way. Like, like I felt more in touch with my femininity. I was listening to my body more. I felt more in tune. Like if something made me uncomfortable, I listened to it. I didn't, eat something to numb it. I didn't um I didn't run from it. Like I kind of just like leaned into it. And I'm like, okay, like this is making my stomach hurt. Like if I eat something and it makes my stomach hurt, I'm like, yeah, this isn't for me. Something's wrong. But I trusted myself a lot more because I got so in tune with myself from like detaching from the flesh, I guess you can say, for a little while. But I did cry. It was very emotional for me. I was crying and then I was looking at my mom and I apologized to her for ever yelling at her. Even when I think about it now, it makes me emotional because I'm like, I'm not here on my own volition. Like my existence isn't really for me. Like it's not for me to glorify my flesh. I'm here literally as a light or an angle or an angel for the one that sent me, like the creator. Like I don't know. It just made me feel very selfless. And then it made me have compassion for people that are still stuck in those paradigms. Um, where they believe that you need food, you won't have energy and you need all this stuff. And I'm just like, I mean, yeah, you can subscribe to it, but like I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. But what I do know is that I realized that we are naturally breatharian, but I realized it. It wasn't something that I just read and I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Theoretically, it makes sense. No, like I physically experienced that. And yeah, but I didn't really dedicate until 2022, but I was practicing when I lived in Florida. Like I was doing breath work outside. I was on the herbs. I was on the burdock root, dandelion root, red clover. Um, I was just experimenting. I did a lot of experimentation on myself. That way, if anyone wanted to argue with me about stuff, I would say, well, look, I did it through experience. I've been doing this for 10 years. I love learning and I love like finding out new things about health and how to like maximize being in this human vessel. Like, how can I utilize this body to its highest capacity instead of just sitting there and wasting what God gave me? I mean, I have athletic ability. I can run, I can jump, I can do squats. I have all my limbs and I was born Black. And I'm grateful for that too. Like, I'm thankful, and I know that I would be doing a disservice to my children or my children's children if I have them, if I don't get on this knowledge and pass it down. So I'm like, this will heal my family. Like I started to realize that me doing breath work, me discovering this is healing my whole family, like my grandparents, everyone. Like I'm doing something to help them kind of thing. It wasn't about me anymore. Like that's how I felt. Like it just made me feel like I'm not doing this for me. And that's what made me feel more compelled to do it. Like I felt a responsibility to do this because it's to help like others, but it's like I have to master myself in order to do so. Um, yeah. So what got me onto this was really leaving the animals alone. That was the first step to answer your question because I kind of went on a long tangent, but leaving the animals alone was the first step, and then realizing why. So a lot of people go vegan or they, go get on a plant-based lifestyle and then they stop there. And it doesn't matter if you eat plant-based. If the mindset isn't really there, it's easy to fall off. Uh, it's easy to, be unhealthy on the lifestyle. And especially if you're doing it strictly for the animals, because doing it for the animals is a good thing. Like, yeah, you want to be compassionate to living beings, but by honoring yourself, you automatically honor the world. Like you automatically respect animals and respect the planet. So it's not necessarily strictly for the animals. Like it has to be because you don't want to harm yourself. Because when you harm yourself, you're going to harm. It's just a ripple effect. So you can't love you and hate animals. I mean, my
Yeah.
reason behind it wasn't even for the animals. Like I've never grown up on a farm. I've never had to kill an animal by my hands. So that didn't trigger me. It was more like, what I mean, I have all this downtime. I'm not playing soccer right now. I'm healing. Um, I want to get deeper into my spirituality, but I think I really took that leap in 2022, I started to apply what I knew. Because at first I was just absorbing information, reading. I was watching your videos. When I was living in Florida, I was watching your videos. I was reading your books that you had at the time. You had it on Kindle, and so I got a few of them. And
That's before the Amazon ban.
yeah, because now they're not there anymore. But I'm so happy I was able to purchase a few, and I would read them. And the thing that I loved was that I could understand. I loved that I could resonate and I understood, and that I was able to share it. Like I would talk about it and I would share it. And I don't know, man. What's it's not depressing, but what's sad is like I asked myself, like, why me? Like out of all the people around me, all of the people in my family, why is it that I'm like, why did I come across this, and why am I picked for this? Because it's not like I'm here to glorify myself. And then I find myself going around people that look like me, and I'm
All
having
right, how
to
about
kind
you?
of,
My bad.
no worries, no worries, it's fine. I have myself going around people that look like me, and I'm having to kind of just, I guess like what Lao Tzu said, those who know don't talk. It's more like I have to pick and choose when to open up and talk about these things, which is why it's taken me a while to even, make videos or a podcast. I have a podcast sitting there actually on Spotify for podcasters, and I haven't posted anything yet because I'm like, like, and then there's a responsibility that comes when you're, out here speaking like this. It's like, people start digging to see like, oh, like, how do we discredit this person? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. A lot of fear surrounds when you come out with this stuff. And then especially because it's alternative. But I do feel like for my community, if someone that looks like them is speaking about these things, um, it could definitely help in a lot of ways. And one thing that I see that is very prevalent within my community is the weed smoking. It is the hot, like, I can't even tell you how many men I've come across, and it's just has them, and I tell them like you can experience a high with diaphragmatic breathing. I tell guys this that try to talk to me and say you can. I've even taught a guy about it, and he used it to get higher with the weed. So I'm like, I don't know, like it's like I don't really know, like I feel like it's just a level of acceptance of reality that, a lot of people, everybody's time is just different, and everyone will come into the knowledge on their own. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like back to what you were saying, like, I think it's not like so much a fear of God. It's and like in the way you're saying, like as a dictator, it's more like you just don't want to lose that connection after you've
Yeah.
experienced it. Like that. It's really like a drop of water in the desert. You know what I mean? Especially if you've been away from that connection. I feel like
Yeah.
then you just be like,
Yeah.
oh shit, no, please never leave me again, please. It's like a different, yeah. So, yeah, I feel you on that one, man. I mean,
Yeah.
and the weed thing, I think, is nuts because people just don't know what they're doing. Again, I think if they had some time off it, because I think people get started so young, they smoking at like 13 or 14 or something, and then like they don't really know.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't even really know. Like certain shit just got stunted at 13 or 14, and they don't even know what it's like to be an adult and be sober. So
Yes.
like, I,
Yes.
I think they never get over that. I guess it's like they got stuff that they got to like reconcile with themselves back at 13. They left themselves back there. Like, oh, you dropped something, buddy, back there 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah. It's true. And that's why I always have to count my blessings and be grateful that despite, the hardship or the challenges that I faced growing up, like, because everybody has different types of trauma that they experience. And for me, I was afforded the opportunity to be in extracurricular activities. Like I swam, I played hockey, I played soccer. So for me, like I kind of had an outlet, and I wasn't surrounded by anyone that could influence me to do anything like that. I mean, I did, dibble and dabble once or twice, but for me, I'm just very sensitive to substances. which I'm actually grateful for as well. Like I've never done any LSD. I haven't done shrooms, haven't done Molly, never did weed. Oh no, I did weed actually. I've smoked weed before, but like I haven't done anything like that. Um, because my body can't handle really being high off of weed. So I'm like, why am I gonna go try something else that may even trip me out even more?
Yeah.
If I can't handle the small stuff, because marijuana is not even the word, like the most intense, I should say, of the
Yo,
rest.
I'm saying, but like, my man, your first times doing weed are not that much different from hardcore psychedelics, man. Kind of
Exactly, exactly, exactly. And
yeah,
then for me, it always feels like the first time. So I'm like, you know what? For like some people, when I tell them like I can't handle it, they're like, oh yeah, that used to happen to me before, but you get used to it. And I'm just like, I'll never get used to that. Like I take one pull and I'm good for the day. And that's why I feel like for some people, like if you're doing things correctly, you don't need to abuse it. If you're taking herbs properly, like you don't need to take herbs constantly, like 24/7. You know what I mean? Like everything serves its purpose, especially if it's a whole thing, like if it's in its whole form. It's really not addictive. I think when you attach, when you're running away from something and you're using something to escape something else, then that thing becomes addictive because you haven't dealt with whatever is going on. Like you were saying, like you turn to something when you're traumatized, and now you use that thing to avoid having to process whatever it was that you were going through. So like, because I don't really have a reason to run to it, for me it's just something that if I want to get real chill, maybe I would do it, but like I don't really find a need for it because I know me, like I kind of have I get anxiety. I'm one of those people that gets real anxious when I'm high. Even breath work, when I do it and I get really deep into it, sometimes I have to slow down because I'm like, my energy gets really, really high and I start to feel high. And I'm like, this is how I felt when I've smoked before. I'm like, so what is it that I mean, yes, I had to put a little bit more effort into the breath work, but the same result came. And there was no damage that came from it either. So I'm like, I don't know, like breath work really can take you there, but it requires presence and a different it requires dedication. Um and I tell people that like, you don't need to smoke weed to experience a high because DMT is produced in the lungs, and when you're in the parasympathetic state, you can experience that level of relaxation. Um yeah.
yeah, for
So,
sure, for
yeah.
sure. So yeah, so like I guess what was the hardest part? I mean, I really feel like it's not the food, it's never the substances, it's just like the people around you that you care about. You
Yep.
be caring about a person, and then they got their hang ups or whatever they got their attachments to, and
Yeah.
you like, damn man, I wanna just, continue to go on, not
Yeah.
breaking stride, but I see you over here hurting. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
The empathy and the compassion. Um and like, okay, so like I don't even know, like I think I saw you post something where you were like, dealing with your own emotions, and then having to deal with the people around you. It's already hard enough dealing with your internal state, and then you have people around you that are like fluctuating throughout the day, based on whatever they're eating or whatever they're consuming, because people's moods like go up and down because of like how they it's very rare to see somebody that's eating a regular American standard diet that doesn't have emotional swings because of just the way that they're putting their body off of homeostasis on a constant basis. So basically, like when you get to that point, like for me, when I got to that point where I was inside of myself, basically, I feel like I was connected, I would say. I don't want to say was, but I was aware of my connection to the most high or to the creator. Um, what was hard for me was like seeing the darkness around me so clearly, like my own siblings, um, like I would see through dimensions. I guess that's what they say when they say like dimensional, when you can see into different dimensions. Like I could see the root cause of like why someone was doing something or where that was coming from. Someone would say something to me, and then based off of what they said, like I could see where that was rooted in. And like I think for me, it was like the hard part was staying sober while being aware of so much at one time. And then it made me understand why people numb themselves. And then it made me understand where binge drinking and binge eating comes from. It's not necessarily the food. It's like, I don't want to accept reality. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to see it. Like it's scaring me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and for me, it was like, you can't be afraid of the truth. Like you can't be afraid to see it. Like, you know,
Yeah.
so for me, I kind of had to be brave. I had to be brave. And like, if I seen someone coming at me with hate, I had to see that it was because they're afraid and not because of me. And I'm like, okay, here we go. I'll just let them say what they want to say. And you don't even really have to do anything. All you have to do is just be connected, and you offend people who aren't. You don't have to say anything to them. All you have to do is just show up. All you're eating is fruit. Everyone else is eating, you know, what they're eating. And then all of a sudden there's a problem. Like you don't have to really do anything. I think it's the fear, because you're such a clear reflection, that some reactions are different. And I think for me, it was being around my family and being aware and having to really swallow that and just accept what was happening. Like you see somebody going down a path that'll inevitably lead them to death, and you have to just accept that and just love them still. You know, like you see the end from the beginning type of thing. Um, and
Yeah.
then that to me is probably the most challenging part when you're liquidarian, when you're breatharian, is watching everyone around you who aren't, and watching them go through the same figure eight over and over again. Because I feel like when you're not eating and when you're fasting and when you're resonating on that frequency, there's so much time and space to create and to do and to just like, I don't know how to explain it, you know, like it, you can just really be. And it's like when you hear people say things like, oh, I don't have enough time or I can't, it's really um, because of certain paradigms that we've subscribed to. It's all about paradigms. It's all about, you know, like our mindset, what we believe in. I genuinely feel like anything is possible when you get back in alignment with your core. Like anything is possible when you really dedicate, but it's, you have to let go of fear. Like fear is probably the biggest blockage to all of this. Like when I talk about breatharianism to people, sometimes I'll come out casually. I'm a hairstylist, so I do a lot of Black women's hair, and they'll come
You
around
got
me
a lot of
and
time. You got a lot of time to talk to them. Then.
yes, yeah. So sometimes they'll say to me like, you know, how do you like maintain your weight? Because I've been like 135. I've been in between 125 and 135 for over 10 years now. I will fluctuate, but I don't ever get bigger than I am. It could be, you could say it's genetics or whatever, but I personally think it's just the way that I eat. I tell them like I don't eat every day, and I don't overeat, and I don't eat certain things, and I don't like, I really just don't eat every day. Like I don't believe in 3 meals a day. I don't believe that you have to eat every day. So for me, my mindset just has it to where I'm light because of that. Like I don't have to consume food all the time. And then I go even deeper into it, because knowing veganism and understanding the vegan diet is like, it's like the very minimum, like it's like the very bottom of the line. Like that's like the beginning stages, like when you're just getting into, you know, holistic healing and stuff like that. It has its purpose. But then as you start to really understand the why, like why are we doing this? Like why are we not eating animals anymore? Like what's the purpose? Like why are we doing this? Like what is the cause? It's literally so that you can be able to live, like you can utilize your breath um to its highest potential. Like when you're fasting and you're not consuming that way, like you can utilize your energy on a for more things. Like you can like maximize your potential. And that's why a lot, when you talk to people who are raw vegan, who understand that aspect of it, because there are probably people who are raw vegan that still believe in binge eating and overeating. Like
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not necessarily the diet, it's the mindset behind it. It's a mentality thing. And I
Yeah.
realized that it's all a mentality thing. That's really what it is. Like, yeah, you can go eat meat, but then when you start doing breath work, it's like, damn, like I don't even have a craving to go do that though. Like I can do it, but it would be more of it would be a choice for me. It's not a need. You know, everything just becomes optional when you realize that your energy doesn't come from anything outside of you. When you realize that the breath is what's powering you, everything becomes an option and not an unnecessary thing. Like it, even with dating, like when you're aware of certain things, it's like, yeah, I can choose to engage and I can see what's going to happen, or I can choose not to. So everything, you don't become a prisoner to your flesh anymore when you start to realize that food is not food is not a something that is mandatory for you to really live a fulfilling life, especially when you find your sources of
Like
enjoyment.
I said, 3D food.
Yes, 3D food, exactly. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, man, like it's challenging because it feels like I felt like everyone was my enemy, like everyone was my op at that time, and it was very sad because I mean, my stepfather is an amazing individual. He understood completely. He had some issues with his liver, and I was telling him about the herb that helps with liver cleansing. Uh,
Milk
I can't
thistle.
remember what is it?
Milk thistle.
Yeah, yeah. I was telling him about that, and then I also told him that his anger towards my step grandmother is a result that could be causing it to be acting up the way that it was. And he was like, "Wow, like that really makes a lot of sense." Because he kept talking about his frustrations with certain things, and I told him like, even though you're utilizing the herbs, because see what the herbs are gonna do is it's gonna, like you explained, it pushes against the cells to release whatever's there, but that also happens on a spiritual and emotional level. So not only are you purging on a physical level, but your emotional side that's also associated with those organs is going to have to come up and get cleared as well. So detoxification and fasting and getting into this lifestyle is heavy. It's heavy work because you have to come to terms with everything that you've been suppressing this whole time. You have to come to terms with that pain that's in your knee or the pain that's in your back. And that's why I even realized during that time in 2022 when I dedicated my time to fasting and breath work that yoga really makes you stretch because life will make you bend. Like if you're too rigid in life, it's going to force you to bend. Like you're going to have to be able to twist and bend with the flow of life. You cannot go against the flow. Like you have to allow the flow to take place, and yoga will teach you to really lean into that. So um it's kind of like a lot of letting go that you have to accept, like a lot of acceptance of the truth, especially of yourself. Like when those things start to happen where a pain comes up where someone pisses you off, you have to literally assess it right then and there. And I feel like what causes us to go back down the ladder, I guess you could say, go back to eating the animals or go back to numbing, is when it gets too intense. Because I've listened to a lot of podcasts while when I'm driving. And one girl, she did, I was listening to a podcast by a girl named Jillian Berry. Um, Maybe one day you can go on her podcast. I think that would be awesome. She lives in Canada as well. She basically does interviews with people who are raw vegan, who are vegan, people who have done extended juice fasts, and she basically hears their perspective because she's a raw vegan herself. And she interviewed this girl, and this girl was doing a juice fast because she had like some health problems. And she said when she went strictly water, it was so intense for her. She had to go back to just the juice, because
Yeah.
it was getting too intense because you basically cannot run away from yourself when you're like that. Everything that comes up in the present moment, you deal with it right then. And that's why
Yeah.
a lot of people are like, I don't know why my neck is hurting. My neck's been hurting for a week. I don't know why my back's hurting. I've had this injury for 5 years. Like it's not healing. It's something that hasn't been addressed, and that the crying that you need to do and the pain that you need to experience to let it go, you're not willing to face it. So, I
Yeah.
mean, that to me would be the hardest part with like, this lifestyle. It has nothing to do with just the food. Like, yeah, the salads are great, the fruits are great. All of it is great, but it's the spiritual internal purging that is, that's the part that, it really makes people be like, fuck this shit. I'm gonna go back to eating animals. I can't do this shit. The moment that they emotionally flinch, they go straight back to whatever it was that they were using to numb themselves. And I think in that moment, they just need to be surrounded by love and by people who are also on that path. That's why I said for me, it's challenging because I'm around people that are just they're content where they're at, and then it's like like I wanna. It's not that it's holding me back, but
They're
it's like
comfortable.
how do I
I don't know if they're content. They're like comfortable in it, whatever they're in.
comfortable in it?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and then it's
'Cause I
like
don't
when
know if you can
I'm
be content like that.
nah, you really can't, and that's why ignorance really isn't bliss to me. Like no, it's not. You know, um, But yeah, like, when you're doing something like that, like you're like going on an extended juice fast and you're surrounded by people that are not doing it, and then you feel so great, like you feel amazing, and then you hear someone saying like, "Damn, like, my body just feel I'm tired all the time," or and you're like, "Why don't like your soul, like your heart and your compassion is like, "Hey, why don't you join me or want to have a juice?" And it's like, yeah, but I got work and I need to do this and I can't do that, because of this reason and it's kind of like it's kind of a sad and melancholy feeling. But then at the same time you have to accept the fact that like you can't make people realize things. Like you kind of have to just be an example and whoever resonates and you just kind of have to accept that not everyone is going to come to that. But then when
Yeah,
you're
I
the
mean,
only one.
you gotta make time for health, man. You know what I mean? Or you're gonna make time for sickness. Like just like if you meet a person that you like to be around, you make time. You know what I mean? It's like they haven't really met themselves fully enough to even enjoy being themselves to know that like I need to make time for myself or whatever. It's for my health.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It,
And I
it's
think too, I think like you're saying, like why people binge and stuff, and like how you're saying you gotta address things when they come up. It's really like the small thing. You gotta just do that small uncomfortable thing, or you're just gonna have, yeah, you're gonna end up binging because it's like you're feeding the wrong voice or the wrong, you're putting the energy into the wrong cup in a sense, I guess, like where it's like, hey man, you don't need any more of this 3D food or whatever. But it's like, yeah, since it's not necessary, I guess it's like this feeling of I need to do even more of it. I don't know, because like you really just got to do a small thing, small, awkward or uncomfortable thing, and then you won't have that hunger. But if you do fucking eat, then it's like yeah, this it's like the law of diminishing reply. Like it's like the more you eat, the less satisfying it is. So then you want to eat more.
yeah,
So
yeah. You'll never be able to quench it. It'll never like there's no I think you said something before the all the seven deadly sins, there's no quenching. Like it just goes for eternity. Lust just keeps going. Like it just keeps going and going and going. There's no end. There's no
yeah,
satisfaction that comes from it. So you have to anything that's real, that anything that's true and whole, there will be a satisfaction. There will be a rewarding feeling from it when it's like real and true, like when it's real and
yeah,
genuine,
yeah.
so I
When it
definitely
supports,
agree.
yeah, I think when it supports creation, yeah, like
Yeah,
lust is like yeah, to think that like, oh man, I'm gonna get over this lust by having more sex. It's just it's
it
crazy.
doesn't do it. Yeah, it doesn't work like that, and I think things what I realized is that things become more enjoyable when you abstain from it for a while. Like when you don't eat fruits, or say you fast for a while and then you come back and you have a strawberry, you could tell if it's GMO or if it's not real, like good, or you can tell that it's real good. Like you can just appreciate things better when you take the time away from it. When you really take the time away from it, take the time to like It's inside of the bathroom. Like, yeah. So like, yeah. So you appreciate things more when you take the time away from it, and you can just kind of, you know, just abstain from it for a while. Um, but I feel like even the reasons behind, like when I used to fast, it used to be so hard for me because I didn't have the mindset behind realizing that food wasn't a necessity, or wasn't metaphysical food wasn't something that I needed. So I would fast and it would be mechanical. I'd be forcing myself to do it. And then I'd end up crashing really hard. And I'm like, okay. And then I would also try to time it. Like, okay, I'm going to start my fast at this time, at this hour. And then and then in 3 days, I'll break it. And it was just becoming a mechanical thing instead of just understanding that, you know, I don't know, like my mindset
Yeah,
around fasting was just very mechanical at first. And then when I started to realize that there are no needs and that everything that's outside of me is actually inside of me, and that what I'm consuming, if it's in its whole form, then it's going to remind me of my wholeness, because that's what whole foods do. It reminds you of your wholeness. So then your body is able to function at its highest capacity. So like the herbs are the most whole thing that we have, really. So when you consume an herb, it will remind those specific organs on what its functions are for. So then you actually, you know, and then people think like, oh, it's because of the food why I healed. And it's like, no, the food was really helping you to realize yourself, just like the shrooms will help you to realize reality on a certain level. The marijuana will help you to realize your calmness, like your, you know, it'll bring you into this parasympathetic, I guess, and you'll
yeah,
realize your calmness. But these things are reflections of you. Like there is no separation between you and the herbs, and you and the sun, and you and the trees, and you and the breath. Like there's no
yeah.
separation. These are all mirror reflections of your own self. So when you're consuming these things, it's basically like, you know,
Giving
it's like
yourself
you're doing
permission through the thing.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. So I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
then it kind of makes you understand why you're eating something. Like it kind of makes you approach food with a different mindset. Like, okay, I'm gonna eat this, but like, what is my purpose? And
yeah.
I remember you were
That's, I
talking
mean,
about that.
I
Yeah,
mean,
go
that's
ahead.
it. I think that's it. I think, you know, like if you don't have the energy for the thing, it's like you got to reevaluate. Like, why am I doing this?
Yeah, yeah,
If it's not your purpose, if it's your purpose, then it's going to give you energy.
yeah, exactly. And things that resonate with you, like with your core, you will always have energy for it. Like I remember when I used to be fasting and I would be having a conversation, or no, I wouldn't be fasting, but I'd be having a conversation on something that's, you know, like high level communication, you know, talking about reality or talking about,
Can you hear me? Damn, I'm at. You hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
All right, cool. Yeah, you cut out for a second. My bad. You go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So like, yeah, I was basically just saying that when something is for you, like it resonates with your core and it's in alignment with you and your truest self, then you will naturally have the energy for it. And it'll give you energy. So you won't really you'll feel energized from it. You know, it won't drain you, it won't deplete you. Um and it's really just simple. But I think above anything, the mind
You cut out again.
how about now?
Got you.
Okay.
It says the
Yes.
mindset.
Yeah, the mindset is everything. The reason behind why you're doing it is what will have you stand the test of time. Um, and if the reason behind it isn't to be more connected to the core, like your core self. It's easy to, if the reason behind it is rooted in vanity, it won't sustain, and that's why, like, Christians say, like, when you're connected to God, like, God is everlasting. There is no, like, you'll never grow tired, really. Like, God will always, be there, consistent. Like, if what you're doing is rooted in that, you cannot you can't falter. It'll never end. There's no failure in that. It's just consistent. But when you deviate from that and you allow fear to dictate, and you allow certain ideologies and paradigms to, get into your mind, like parasites and parasitic thoughts, um, it's easy to fall back down the path. But the thing about it is that, God is always with you, and, the breath is always there, and you can always get back up and keep going. There's a lot of times when I fell off the path, or not fell off the path, but I would, deviate and go towards, what I already knew deep down wasn't really in alignment with my best self. But then I always remembered, like, okay, this is going to hurt me ultimately. So let me just turn around and go back. But the fear of the Lord that I was talking about earlier, like, you don't even want to play with that after, like, when you see the returns really quickly, you don't want to play with that type of energy, like thinking that you can outsmart God or outsmart the source or outsmart your true self. Like, your body will not punish you, but I mean, I guess you can say, like, you will punish yourself
It's gonna
ultimately if
betray.
you can.
Yeah, it's gonna definitely. Your body's gonna definitely betray your endeavors that you have
Yeah,
away. You know what I mean? Because that's what I feel like. When I would get away from that presence, that protection that comes with that presence, like, I can feel like, all right, now I'm going into life, raw dogging this thing. Now I'm really, I'm out here in the world, and I don't have that helping me right now. Whatever I do is on, what I mean? Like, there's nothing, I'm not getting
yeah,
supported, but like, when you have that support, then yeah, you can feel like you can do whatever, because you're like, man, well, I got this, I got the presence on my side. So it's not, what else? All I got to do is just maintain this, and it'll work out.
exactly. Exactly. Yeah, that's it. I mean, because I used to ask myself, like, what do I do now? Like, what do I do at this point? Like, now that I'm aware that if I step out of line, like, X, Y, and Z is coming. Like, I know if I do this, X, Y, and Z is coming. So, like, what do I do now? It's like, either you just walk the narrow path, which it made me understand the narrow path at that point, because the Bible talks about it, which my understanding of the Bible increased after doing the breath work and the fasting. Like, spiritual text started to make sense to me more when I started to actually embody the path. That's why my mom and I have these conversations all the time. I tell my mom, I say, like, the church is a great place to go, I guess, for people who need community and need people who are on the same wave to kind of keep them accountable. But the real work happens when you do the work, like when you actually take the knowledge and then you apply it. Then you can go back to the book and be like, okay, like, what's being written in these texts, and it doesn't have to be the Bible, it can be any spiritual text, even the old ones, even the Tao Te Ching. Like, when you start to actually do the work and then you go back to the books and the text, you're like, oh, like, this is in me already. Like, I get it now. Like, I see what he's saying. Like, I can comprehend it. And that was what was happening to me. I realized that I'm the book and I'm looking at the text, but the book is me. And I'm really just looking at myself and reading my own wisdom and understanding. And I mean, with the Bible, it's really deep because there are specific children, and that's like a whole other topic, but like, bloodline and stuff like that, like a lot of stuff that's written in there and even in the Quran and stuff, like, when you start to walk the path, those things just become natural. It doesn't become a thing where you have to go to a physical building to comprehend it. You know,
Yeah,
um,
the
it's like
poem
you
really does
realize,
write the poem, though.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So like, I kind of just got to a point where I'm like, man, like, if you've never fasted ever in your life and you don't even really practice that, like, how can you fully it's one thing to know God in theory or to understand God based on what the pastor said to you. But when you actually do breath work and you fast and you feel like, or you go and you
On
touch
the
it,
inside,
yes, on the
like
inside, yes,
God was in your house.
yes,
I ain't had to. I wasn't watching them on TV.
yeah, exactly. Like when you really, it's like you're so shook that you can't talk. I like if God himself came, like, I don't want to speak of God as a separate entity, but like the presence of the Lord, you cannot talk. You literally are so humble that you cannot speak and comprehend the word. Like there's no language that can there's just no way. Like it's an unfathomable experience. It'll make you cry. And that's why, like, even biblically, it says every knee shall bow because I was doing breath work. I was sitting in my room and my mom was, I think, in the hallway or cleaning or something. And I was doing the breath work and then I started crying hysterically. And then I fell to my knees because I'm like, yo, I've been a horrible person in a lot of ways. Like I felt like I was in judgment. And that's why I say, like, when the fear comes, it's because you remember all the things that you've hurt people or the things you've said. Your heart becomes open. Maybe for me in that moment, maybe there was a part of my body that was being cleared. So maybe that's why I had that reaction. But like I started crying because I felt extreme guilt. Um, and not guilt in a way where like I hated myself or anything, but I felt so remorseful. And I feel like in that moment, that was when I could really ask for forgiveness because I realized that like I'm not exempt. I'm not what is it? Like I fall short of the glory. Like my pride was no longer there. Like I realized that like I'm just as guilty as the next man. Like I have to be humble. Like, and that was where that I realized the mercy and the love of God because despite all of that, I was still fed, clothed, I had a place to stay, people that love me. Like, despite me being this person, I had that, but the breath work made me realize that. So sometimes when I see people preaching and praying and they're like 300 pounds and they're like, I'm just like, I'm like, I get what you're saying, but like, I don't even know. Something to me is sinister because, and I know you can't shoot the messenger, but it's like, have you went deep enough? Like, have you really purged yourself and like really went deep into the belly of the beast and like really did the hard shit to like really face these
To,
things?
re-
I feel like a lot of,
yeah, to really be soft.
yeah. Yeah, like you have to really allow yourself to go to that vulnerable point. And then that's when you can really see like it was basically like I was near death. I don't know how to properly explain it, but it was like I was near death and at that moment, if God wanted to take me out, he could. Like at any given moment, God will just be like, "You're out of here. I'm taking
That's
you."
it. That's it, buddy.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So that's where the fear of the Lord came from. Like that's where the fear was. Like I am not here on my own volition. I am here because I am being spared. Like I am here because there's a purpose that I'm supposed to be serving. I'm not supposed to be here doing these things that I wasn't ordained to do. And because of the vaccines, because of the circumcision, because of the food, because of the TV, because of all this, we're not knowing. We forgot. We forgot what we're supposed to do. We've been misled completely. And then it turns into like, oh, now your soul has to go out and come back in if you have one and do it all over again and with more confusion this time. And then it's like if you remember, that's what you're saying, like you never want to lose that connection. It's like, man, like I don't know, man. Like
Yeah.
the fear of the fear of the Lord is like it's not a thing where he's dictating me. It's more like you love me so much and you're trying to get me to learn and to listen. And if I don't listen, then I can't be here. So it's like everybody's really taking uh, the gift of life for granted in a way, um,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
by
I think,
yeah,
like you said, remembering though, I think it is kind of like that. Like, all right, so if you live a vain ass life and then you just die unconsciously, then you might reincarnate. And I look at it kind of like your people that your kindred people that's around you, like they might, you'll come back and y'all all come back and y'all be like slightly separated in some way. It's almost like if like your arm was over there across the room and your leg is in the kitchen or whatever, and then you got to kind of like remember, you got to you got to bring it all back. And the more that you, yeah, the more that you live a vain ass life, the further it is. Like now your arm is in China, now you're fucking, what I mean? Your leg is somewhere, and you're just like, damn, man, how the fuck do I? You don't even know where to start, how to get everything back together.
yeah,
And
it's so. Man, that time I should have really hit you up more during that time because then I could have. It was so active then, like it was I was I was listening to a song on, like I saw a music video on the TV and I started crying at it, because it was so beautiful. But it's like you hear music every day, you see flowers every day, you see trees every day, but like fully experiencing things, it's like when you're numb, like you literally are so disconnected from life. It's like you're so you can't feel anything. And that's why you made a very valid point when you said sensitivity is a gift. Being able to feel is something that is very lacking in this world right now. And I'm not like, bashing people for choosing to numb themselves. It's intense out here, like everything. There's a lot going on and it's like people don't want to feel it. You know what I mean? But it's like,
the only way you
can
can
you say,
numb yourself, though, I think, is if you really have been separated somewhere inside to where
yeah,
you don't feel something. Like, because that's how I feel about, you just, there's something that you aren't in touch with somewhere in there, like that's not being communicated within you. And so it has to, usually it'd be like some pre-birth shit or some birth trauma shit that like
yeah,
separated you to where you never really knew what it was like to be all together. So you can like even, because once you, I feel like, experience yourself, the Lord, however you know what I mean, that I feel
yeah,
like you're like, there's nothing worth that. You know what I mean? There's no point.
nothing.
Like even if you do like be like, all right, I'm smoking weed right now, you're like, this has to stop though. I know this has to stop. It's not like,
Yeah, like
you know what I mean? It's not like a if or when. Because people ask me all the time, like, man, why'd you stop smoking weed? And I'm like, damn, I don't really know how to explain this. I feel like you should know you shouldn't do it, but I can't make
yes,
you
like
experience yourself.
yes, yes, like you your desires change. And that's all I could really like your zest for things that you once, like you literally don't have the desire for it. Like it kind of dies when you learn the truth about something. The way you approach it changes. Like you don't, like it's like learning about, it's like once you know best, you can't really go backwards when you
Yeah,
fully know
yeah.
best. Not
Like,
in theory.
have you had like coconut water out of a can, and then you have it out of the then you have it out of the coconut. You're
Yeah.
like, yo, I'm never going back to the shit in the can.
Yeah, but you have to. But the key thing there is that you experienced the difference. So it's like when people don't even know how healthy they can actually feel, then they'll never be able to fully understand you. When you're like this is an amazing, like they'll never be able to see like that what they're doing is damaging because they don't have a reference point,
It's
and
such a
I
yeah.
and
It's such
so
a
it's like you
process.
have to give.
You can't just
Yeah,
get it. You know what I mean?
it
Like people, I
is
think
like,
they don't. I think they just want it all at once, and it's like, you got work to
yeah, you
do,
can't.
but they don't even know what the
Yeah,
value. If
that's
they're,
me.
if they're yeah, they're too numb, then they kind of don't know what the value. But like maybe the baby them kind of remembers, but they don't really know. And like I think, even like with that, like you had the coconut water in the can, and then it is just circulating the light inside you. So the more that you do that, the less that you
Yeah,
even want that. So it's like it's a process like that. Like you experiencing the creator almost on some like um external shit, watching them on TV. Then the creator comes in your house, and then you like really anointed to where you're not separated. And then it's like you got that, and you got that Midas touch kind of where you have the ability to create like the creator created in some respects. Like
Yeah,
you have,
yeah.
and I think, and like you just want. I feel like evolution. You just like, yo, give me more responsibility, yo. Come on, give me more so I can
Yeah.
learn
The
more.
more
You know,
new levels, new devils for sure. Because the more you learn, the more intense the challenges become. Like once you start realizing, like the ejaculation thing, like I learned about that. Like I'm not a man, but I comprehended that. So now I'm telling guys like, it's really you shouldn't really be like ejaculating so often, because it depletes you in a certain way, like spinal fluid.
dudes,
And then
dudes be like, you shouldn't be being pretty. That's what dudes be acting.
right? And then it's like what do I, cuz for me like coming into this knowledge, my love, the way that I love is different. And so for like sorry, my mom's on the phone. Yeah, like my love for people changes, but then because they don't really understand that level of love, it's like they think that you're rejecting, or I don't know. It's like I don't know. It's
Yeah,
like what the truth, the
goes
full
both ways,
truth is
man.
love. Yeah, like
Because
someone telling me like
women will be like, wow, they'll feel like they'll internalize that shit like it has something to do with them like not being good enough or you not trusting them
yeah,
enough, and like,
yeah,
and it,
yeah.
and it goes both ways.
Yeah, it definitely does. Like, and as a woman, like, and a black woman at that, man, when I tell you that I've experienced, like when I did this whole breathwork stuff and everything, I learned a lot about being a woman. And I feel like any woman listening to this podcast will probably think I'm being a pick me or whatever. But like, we have some, like, especially black women, like, and we have a lot of work to do spiritually. We're naturally like that due to DNA and being connected like that, the heavily melanated ones. Um, but like I learned that like I had a lot of pride, I had a lot of anger, pride, my relationship with my biological father. Like a lot of stuff came up in that time where I had to come to terms with, I had to forgive, things that happened to me when I was in my teens, you know, um, things that I've made peace with as of now, but I'm not proud of, and that I learned about, like why it was wrong, like certain things like that. So, I mean, like you kind of get, not only will you become more aware of reality in like a general sense, but then you'll also start to understand your own lineage and like who you are in relation to everything. So like my respect for like just being like, I feel like it's a responsibility for me specifically as a black woman to be on this path, because um it's like this is what will save my people kind of thing, like like how Moses had to like go and help his people, like he had to do what he had to do. And I'm not Christian by any means, but like I get the stories. Like I get why there were messengers and people born back, and people that came to like say stuff. And I always tell my mom like Jesus wasn't, or Yeshua, wasn't here to make people glorify him. He literally was trying to teach like teach people to, the same thing, like come back to yourself, get back in touch with the creator within, and then because of politics and haters and all this crazy shit, it's the same thing all over again. Messengers are coming, speaking the knowledge, telling the truth, and people, it's like people don't want responsibility, so they want to put it on someone else. Jesus can fix it. Jesus can heal me. Jesus can do it. And it's like, yeah, he's an example, but like the faith in him is good, because then it's like you believe in his work and what he's doing, but you have to do the work yourself in order to really see change. You have to save you. No one can do it for you. You have to save yourself. And it really becomes futile to be subscribing to religious doctrine if you're not actually doing the work. You won't see any change. You'll just be very knowledgeable in it. You'll think you know, but when you really do the work, then you really know. Like you won't need to talk much. Like it'll be something that's internal and you're aware. and you'll just do. Your actions will speak for your knowledge, basically. And yeah, like it's not an overnight thing. And I'm someone who's an extremist. So when I first learned about veganism, I went cold turkey, and then I had to really understand that it's not about the food, like it's not about the food. It's really a consciousness thing. It's about your mindset and how you understand food. And then that shifts everything. It's a stepping stone because we are naturally breatharian. But if you don't understand that and comprehend that, you can't really, like, fasting won't really be as effective. Meditation won't be as effective. When you realize that your nothingness and your body is a manifestation from the void, like everything starts from zero and then comes outward. The silence is where everything is created. It's everything really is void, and yeah, like the stillness is everything. So the diet is really just a stepping stone to bring you back home to yourself. And it's really, for me, when you're sick or you're not well, you naturally don't want to eat. Animals do it all the time. They don't eat, they just sit there. I remember I had cats when I lived in Florida, and when they weren't feeling well, they would refuse to eat. They would just go and sit in one spot and they wouldn't move. They would just sit there, and you knew they were sick because they wouldn't move. So it's like, they wouldn't eat, they wouldn't move. So I mean, we're connected to them too. Like everything in nature knows what it's supposed to do. Um, and then there's, like, people like to bring up the argument. So what is it to say about people born with disabilities and stuff? And I remember you said something about the nature of the unnatural, where because we've tampered so much with divine order, things are coming things are coming out in ways. It's almost like you messed with something so much that its natural reaction is going to be in that way. And you can have sick babies just from not having a healthy pregnancy. Like people think things are hereditary, but I feel like it's like a long-term process where, like, you're doing things in an unnatural way and it ends up manifesting um in a certain type of way because we're so far removed. Like the food, everything is really not where it once was. And so really at this point in time, like if you're not on the breath, I'm not trying to like put a time on limit on people, but like if you're not really realizing the breatharian path or even raw vegan, if you're not really on that wave to where you understand it, um, like it's going to be very difficult in the years to come because being able to go without food is actually an essential. And I feel like it will be something that you'll need to be able to do. Um, I don't know. And I feel like you have more money when you need less. Like money will come to you and you won't have that much demands to spend it. So like a lot of people saying that they don't have enough money to be vegan or to do this and that. Like when you realize you need less, like money becomes more abundant. Like everything just becomes more abundant when you realize that you already have everything you need. But it's all about a realization. Everything's a mindset, and there is no lack. And
So I mean, like, I think that the problem is with this is like you want to share it.
yeah,
That's like the only problem. I feel like that's
yeah,
the only
that's what
issue.
it is. Yeah, it is. And if I don't do it, I end up going down. Like I end up just blending in. I want to be myself. That's the problem. Like I want to be myself. I want to be authentic and I want to be real. But I think for me, what the hard part is the is recognizing that that's going to put me in a like in the line of fire, and it's embarrassing to admit, but it's like I don't want to deal with the energy that comes with it because there's not Like I see when you go and you post what you have to post, it's very controversial for a lot of people. You know, like when you say like abortion is murder, um, all sorts of stuff, you know? And for
Yeah.
me, when I read your posts, I don't get offended by it. But like for me, it's like I want to hear these things. I want to hear the truth. So for me, it's like I don't care if it's something I've done that you called out. You know what I mean? Like for me, it's kind of like, hey, like it is what it is. It doesn't mean that I'm getting like shots are being thrown at me. It's just more like this is what's going on. Like it's calling a spade kind of thing, you know? So like that's what it is for me. It's like I want to be able to express this stuff, but I also feel like there's like a side of me that wants it to be understood and accepted. And I think that's the hard part is sharing and accepting the fact that you're not going to be accepted, that it's not going to be internalized, that people aren't going to have a problem with it. Like not everybody's going to hear this and be like they're going to think that you're crazy because I've had people tell me in 2022 when I was doing this stuff, "Oh, you're crazy. Like Lisa's crazy. Are you crazy?" Like and that to me is very like uncomfortable to hear when people try to tell you you're crazy. It's good because being crazy in this world, I mean, who would want to be normal in a world like this? Like look at what's normal. The standard is insane to me. So being considered different is something that I have to come to terms with in my adult life as I'm coming into my Saturn return and I'm coming into being more refined in who I am. Like I have to be comfortable. It's so funny. I'm just such a girl. Like I'm getting emotional, but like I have to be more comfortable with not being accepted or being seen as different, especially as a Black woman, like with everything that, you know, comes with being visibly Black and stuff, like coming into this knowledge about breath work and, you know, the
Yeah, that's
meat
the
is
thing.
killing us.
I think that's the tough part is because like, you know, people will hear it from me, but I heard it from black people.
That,
You
thank you.
know what I mean? I don't get it. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah, like,
I'm just relaying it. It's like if
yeah,
you
you're,
you know what I mean? It's like if you say grass is green, and then I'll be like, yo, grass is green, and people just don't listen to me, or
yeah,
they don't listen to you. Because I remember Sebi was saying that he was like the people that give him the hardest time was, you know, his people that look like him. So
yeah.
I think
And
it's
then we're
tough.
not credited. You know, Black people, I feel like we're not really expected to be well versed in certain intellectual things from my perspective, which is really weird because, you know, if you look in history, like a lot like all people heavily melanated people invented a lot of things, built things, like created things. And like at the end of the day, I love the truth, and the messenger really to me isn't as important as the truth, but I do have to know myself, um, and know where I come from and pay homage to that. And that's the thing too. Like if you didn't take the information and relay it, then I wouldn't. And like it's like, you know, people will be like, "Oh, you're taking that information from this white guy," and I'm just like, why is how this person visibly looks to you, why is that important? Like this information can save us all. Like what the hell? Like to me there's just a limit, there's like a level to where like some stuff, because a lot of times people don't take Black people serious anyways, you know, like our community is full of a lot of stuff that is completely degrading to us, and people use you know, Black suffering and all that stuff to really, you know, make profit and different things like that, especially with Black women. A lot of gay guys will use like ghetto Black girl stereotype to, there's just a whole bunch of shit going on, but like a lot of, you know, people in the LGBT community will utilize Black ghetto behaviors to kind of get clout and attention. um you know, so like if a Black woman is coming out and speaking on things like, you know, we have to protect our womb, let's teach our men breath work, you know, let's practice breath work as Black women. um you know, let's get onto the holistic foods and like the herbs and the fruits and everything, which there are a lot of Black women doing that now. But like getting into like the breatharian area of things and the breathing exercises and all that, like it'll raise the standard for our community, as a people, and it'll shift the entire world because our energy is really what makes everything flow. Like it's really us that is causing, like we feed into what the narrative is pushing. Like we give it life,
Yeah, it's
so
like a
it's like if
feedback loop. If the archetypes are fucking hurting themselves and ignoring themselves, then there's no way the world can really ever really be in its true form. Right.
exactly. It's true. Like that's exactly what it is. So it's like we have to, especially as Black women, like when you raise your standard, and I see a lot of these, man, social media is so full of stuff that like I see a lot of these like women empowerment, like Black women empowerment pages where they're telling women how to like, you know, um, like uplift themselves and don't settle for less with men and all these things. And it's kind of like, honestly, like if everyone just dedicated like a month to just detoxing and really getting back connected, like it would shift everything. Everyone's standards would shift. Like at this point in time, a lot of men, they in my culture love like big bodied, big bootied women. Nothing's wrong with that. Like, with wanting a woman that's visibly appealing or
I
whatever.
think
Men are
I think
visual.
hips. I think hips. Yeah, hip for sure.
Yeah.
The shape is nice, like proportion, but yeah, when it gets to a point where it's like
It's like
this
out
is
of whack.
just yeah, this
Yeah.
is cellulite, bro. It's 90% cellulite.
Yeah, yeah. Like and like I said, like there's nothing, like to me, like what attracts me are men that are internally healthy, like internally. So like if you could be tall or you could be a little bit my height or whatever, but if you take care of your body, to me that's a turn on. But like I feel like the standards and the desires are just so different now, right, with certain people because of just the way that they like what they view as being attractive. Like, somebody who, eats well to me is attractive because like, when someone sweats and you can smell like the carcass coming out of their pores, or like you can see, and it's not me trying to like, put people down, but it's like, your taste kind of shifts when you start to really become more aware of things.
Yeah,
You can kind
literally.
of sense, yeah, like you can
Yeah.
see that, like the difference between a girl with a vegan butt and then you see a girl, yeah, her ass is fat, but like
How long is it
she's
gonna
eating
last?
McDonald's, she's eating pork and steak and all that stuff. And it kind of just shifts your perspective. And then how someone eats, it says a lot about their mindset and how they think and how they view. um
Themselves.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
like it just
their
it really, and then yeah,
yeah, their
like
relationship with themselves is like totally being exposed.
yeah, yeah. So it's like, yes, and it doesn't mean they're bad people. Like even during that
No,
process where, yeah,
just their
like
their relationship with themselves could be better.
hmm
That's it.
exactly, exactly. That's all it is. So like, and that's the thing too. Like when you become aware too, I think another hard part is like, getting into relationships and um
Yeah, I was gonna say like yeah, like I don't know if you want to speak to that. I know we could go on that for a minute. I don't know how much time you got, but whatever you want to share with that.
yeah, I could go into that a bit.
Because like I feel like we talk about that one privately, pretty
Yeah, yeah,
pretty.
we did.
Because I
Yeah.
mean, it's tough because you got your genetic predisposition and you got your nutritional predisposition,
Oh
your
my
standard.
gosh. Yeah. It Well, for me, I kind of see myself as like a woman that like I don't want to make anybody be anything that they don't already want to be. I don't want to push anyone or force anyone to be anything that they already internally don't aren't gravitating towards. So like if you're someone that eats meat and I'm choosing to be with you, I'm choosing to be with you consciously knowing that you eat differently from me, and I'm not going to really put you down or like try to change you to say like this is how you need to be in order to date me or something like that. However, I feel like in a way I have to be aware that like I have to be aware of myself in situations like that, because it's when you're not really in alignment with someone else on certain things like that, you can get pulled into stuff, because you're trying to keep things peaceful and harmonized. So like you're gonna probably be more inclined to consume something because
Yeah,
you're trying to
you're,
stay.
you're trying to harmonize like heavy
Yeah,
metal and jazz.
yeah. So it's like you have to, when you're dibbling and dabbling like that, you just have to be you have to be rooted in who you are. And it can cause discomfort. So it's like sometimes when it comes to dating and stuff, you want to be involved with people that don't take you away from your breath or that don't take you away from your knowledge of self in a way. Because then it's like you're betraying you being with them. And it feels like who are you committed to, this relationship or being you? And so it's like when you're with somebody that is on that same wavelength, it doesn't really feel like you're cheating on yourself being with them. It kind of just feels like you're learning from each other, bouncing off of each other. But some of us like challenges, and we like to torture ourselves in certain ways, so we accept certain things, and then we're attracted to certain things, so. And I feel like these topics are really touchy for some people because, like, I remember I made a comment. I'm like, well, at least I didn't eat an animal. I mean, I ate fast food, but it wasn't meat. And he was like, oh, what does that mean? Like, because he eats meat. So it kind of made him feel like in a certain type of way, he took it as like I was trying to say something to him, but it wasn't even like that. I was kind of speaking, I was thinking out loud to myself. And it's like, people see that you're doing something to better yourself or to make yourself healthier. And it kind of just amplifies their own shortcomings. And then it kind of turns into this thing where like there's like some type of battle or competition, or sometimes people will try to justify their path to you even though you didn't even say anything to them. Like like some people will be like, well, like, it's like not all fruits are good for you, right? Like, and you're just eating your strawberries or grapes or whatever, and you're not even saying anything. And they're like, like you're vegan, but like, all apples aren't good for you. Like a lot of them are, and it's just like you don't need to discredit, fruits because you want to justify the fact that you like to eat steak. Like it's okay. Like do you. Like at the end of the day, like I'm not here, but I feel like it just sometimes it can be like an alarm for people when you enter into relationships with them and you have a certain standard for yourself. And I've seen it happen to me because like I have a friend, she doesn't use pads. Like she doesn't wear like pads when she's on her period. She uses like a diva cup. So like she'll
Okay.
put the cup in or whatever. It's basically it's eco-friendly.
No, I've
It's
seen them.
yeah. So like she does that. She's been doing it for years. She does a lot of things differently. Like she doesn't get tattoos. She prefers henna. Um,
That's
because
cool.
she's also on the same type of path. Like she doesn't eat animals and stuff. Um, whatever. But like certain things that she'll be doing, I'm like, it'll make me more aware of like the things that I'm doing. Like it'll show me my blind spot. And I'm like, oh, like, and it's easy when people are uncomfortable or when people don't really see their shortcomings and comings and then they see you come around, it kind of highlights that for them. So now they're kind of more conscious of themselves because they're seeing it. It's like, well, I use pads. Like, what does that mean? Like, am I like, it kind of makes me feel like, damn, I need to upgrade myself. I need to level up in a certain way. Like, I don't want to be, doing things like this, and it's, it's creating waste or whatever. And so it's like, when you get into relationships with men, well, for me, with men, and they smoke or they like to eat McDonald's and they like to drink and they ejaculate often. They don't really, they're low energy in a sense. When they see you doing things a certain way, it can create one or two reactions. It might ignite a flame over their head where they're like, damn, like I want to, or it can make them kind of get defensive and like kind of like they look at you like you think you're better than them or you're trying to like tell them what to do. And then it's like too, it's like, sometimes you enter into a relationship and you just want to rest. Like as a woman, I just want to relax. I want him to just lead me. Like yeah, like you want to go like can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah. So it's like you want to just let them lead. But then when you get into a relationship and you're aware of all of these things, and
Yeah.
then, he's not
They,
really on that
yeah.
level,
They show
now
their
I'm
hands.
just, yeah, like
Yeah.
I'm teaching you. And now I feel like, damn, I'm teaching him. He's going to learn this and he's going to go be a leader for someone else. Like he's going to go
Yeah.
lead a girl. He's going to go be with another woman and teach her, So then I
Yeah.
just really feel like I'm your catalyst. I'm not really, and it kind of just makes it to where like relationships become optional, just like eating is optional. Like relationships become optional. It's like, yeah, I could be whole and complete on my own. I can't really play the same
Community
game that I
service.
used to. Yeah, like I'm out here just pouring, I have 3 placements in Aquarius. So you could say, like metaphorically, I'm out here just pouring water into people's cups, with my Venus in Aquarius and my Mars and my Mercury. So I'm here just here you go, like here's some information, here's some knowledge. But then it's like that whole idea of me, like I think my longest relationship of 5 years, like he really was teaching me like self-defense, how to punch, how to use like a bow and arrow.
This is the guy you was
We
married
would
to? Are you
Yeah, yeah,
did you end up leaving him?
yeah. I was living with him in Florida and then I ended up leaving. Um, which is a whole other situation. But like, yeah, like in that situation, I was learning from him, and I was teaching him and he was teaching me. So it was like a natural flow. And it's not that you can't learn from people that aren't really on that path. You can still learn, but I feel like like it depends on the level of sickness, like how self-aware the individual is, and then you come into their life and you can already see like the role you play. And I feel like when a man recognizes that you don't really need them, I feel like for a man, like they like to know that they're they're bringing something to you or they're helping you in some way. As much as men like to, men of this day and age like to ask women what they're bringing to the table, I feel like a lot of men like to be needed in a certain way, or they like to know that their woman needs them, or that they're leading their woman, or they're bringing something of value to their woman. Um, so like when a man feels like you're his messenger or his teacher, it kind of like, I don't know. I feel like for some men it's like an ego thing, and when you know things and you're just teaching him and telling him, and it just kind of creates a different dynamic, And sometimes as a woman, you just want to relax. You want to just, like I want to learn
Yeah.
from you. Like I want you to lead me.
Yeah.
And it kind of makes relationships a little challenging, but I will say this, that like just because somebody isn't on that path of like, not eating meat or whatever doesn't mean I can't learn a thing or two. I can be an overthinker sometimes. And I can learn a lot from men where they kind of are more simplified in certain ways. Um so yeah, like you can still learn from people, but I feel like in relationships, when you're really self-aware or when you're aware of certain things and they're not, it creates a different dynamic. And you might want this person to be your man, but he might end up being like a brother to you, or like a little brother, or like a cousin. Like the dynamic just becomes something else because of the type of interaction that's taking place. And it can be a little bit lonely in a sense, because it's like I wish I could still play the game again, like where I don't know anything, and but then you realize like that was
The
never
pain.
actually, yeah, like it was never actually fun because it wasn't reality, like it was more painful than anything, because you were believing in a lie, like it wasn't true. So now it's like when things are real, it doesn't hurt as much, but it's kind of like, damn, like it, I don't know.
Well, I
I
just
don't know
think
how
it
to
just like
explain.
I mean, I think it's just it's a very specific thing, as far as like being with someone, and I think that like
Yeah.
it's not supposed to feel like anybody can fill the shoes. You know what I mean? It's like really,
Yeah.
it's really like what's the shit? Sleeping. No, what's the one Disney thing when she had the slipper?
Oh,
It's
are
like
we
it
talking
got
about Cinderella? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's gotta fit, and it can't, because once you have it, then you have it, and it's like this is it for probably if not forever, for a long time, for a big chunk of your life. you're not gonna be thinking
Yeah.
so much about trying to get more people. You know, Like, and so I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
so. It's like
And
you give it. You be like, I want that, I want that, I want that. Then you get it, and then it's like a whole nother thing. I think where you're just like, fuck, this is a lot of responsibility too. It was a lot trying to get it. Now I got it, and now it's like, fuck, we got work to do.
yeah, yeah. And
Yeah,
that's when you know that that relationship is the one, is really like, because you're not, I have a whole like view on like marriage and coming together too. Like, it's not to serve you. Like, it's when it's something of a higher power, the relationship is going to be serving the greater good of all. I don't know if this is the Aquarius in me talking, but I know that like when you genuinely have, like, when you have a genuine connection with someone and you have a purposeful connection, it's going to be to serve the greater good. It's going to be to create something that will serve humanity as a whole. It's not going to be just romantics, romance and just you and them. That's why, like, I've had conversations with men about polygamy and the purpose of having multiple wives and having a community like that where you have a home and everyone is bringing something of value. Every woman has value and is bringing it to the entire relationship. But a lot of times people, I've had one guy ask me, he's like, "Oh, well, how would you feel if like the guy was spending more time with this girl and that girl?" And I'm like, when you're within yourself and you're self-aware and you know your value and you know what you bring and you see the relation the you see the dynamic serving a higher purpose, your thoughts are not even going to be about who's getting more time from this person and who's getting more time, because you're so whole and complete within yourself that that's not even really an issue for you. I feel like
yeah,
people are looking outside of themselves for fulfillment from like men or women. Like, you're not realizing that like when you recognize your value, you're able to bring value to things without thinking just of your own, what you're getting out of it. Like, it's more like we're doing this for the purpose of the all. It's not just about me and what my intent, like what I want or whatever. Like, it's more about all of us, and how this is helping the children and how we're all advancing and growing as a unit. Yes, you want to have good times and you want to spend one on one and stuff, but everything is, the mindset of that is kind of like, it's on a different level. It's not just about me, me, me. It's not vanity, and it's difficult to comprehend because, we live in a world where everyone wants to feel important and special. And we are important and special, but that understanding of importance and being special needs to come from within, and everybody that's in that dynamic has to recognize that. Like, she's really good at crafting, like making clothing from hand by hand. She's really good at being a doula, like bringing babies in. She's really good at building stuff or whatever. It's like we all come in with something of value, and we love one another, and we want to serve and help one another. And we have the man providing or bringing in the provisions for us to be able to do what we need to do. And all the children are learning themselves and learning the crafts from all the different women. And there's no need for us to go outside of the home. I know it's a really idealistic view right now in the world that we're living in. But I mean, right now, people are already in polygamous relationships and it's unnatural. And there's a lot of lying, there's a lot of deception, there's a lot of outside kids and men with multiple baby mothers, women with multiple baby fathers. We're already doing it. So it's like, it's not
work together.
necessarily what's done, it's just how it's done, and if we did have that mindset, it could be functional. If a man has two baby mothers and those baby mothers decide that they want to, help one another, I mean, it would be less struggling single moms, like, because
Yeah,
men are capable of having multiple children with multiple women. It is biologically in a man's nature to have multiple women. Women, not so much. And as a woman myself, I don't even like how that feels, having multiple men. I can't really, like, I can talk to multiple guys if I want to, but it's like I don't really feel content like that. Like, it doesn't feel, to me, I like having the one person where it's just stable and secure, like just stable in that. Like, I don't need to be with multiple people. Interacting and sharing ideas and learning from other people. Yeah, I'll have a conversation or two with another guy, but like, I don't need to be out there. Like I don't need that. I like stability and just stability. I don't know how else to explain it. So like for a man, like, it's not the same. We're not the same. And I feel like in this day and age, it's like, oh, let's be equal. We need equality. Everybody needs to be the same. We all need to be like, and it's just like I'm biologically not wired to be like a man. Like I cannot be how a man is. Like the way I like every month I go through different phases where I'm tired for 1 week, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say Sebi kind of said it like in a different way about something else. I think it kind of relates though when he was saying like that he had a bunch of brothers and sisters, and then like he had brothers that needed more attention from the mom, and he was like, but it doesn't mean that the mom loved the other brothers anymore. It's just they knew that that one needed more at that moment or whatever it was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? A phase of
Yeah.
their life. And I think yeah, like if you're in a polygamous thing, like everybody's gonna have to really be on their grind. It's gonna be a lot of work, and you're gonna be too busy to just be like having like just what I'm gonna just have casual um I guess like just play time with some other woman. Like no, like everybody's trying to stay in their role, and it might take a moment to like iron that out to figure out the rhythm
Yeah.
of that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? If a
It
new
will
woman
just
comes
be
in, you know what I mean, and I know that'll be like an awkward moment in the beginning maybe, but like I think once everybody gets in rhythm, then it's like you're not really thinking about. Ultimately, I feel like it's just going to be rooted in like, oh man, he's fucking this other person. But I don't think you're going to be thinking about it if everybody's just they're not concerned with sex. They're more so like they're doing their role. So sex is not like it's in its role. So you
yeah,
don't feel like
yeah, it's in its
you, you
proper place. Yeah.
you know what I mean. But if you got a guy that's abusive with it, and he's just like, yeah, I'm gonna fuck this chick over here, and then just because, and then go and
Yeah.
then I'm gonna come over here and then entertain you or whatever, and just rotate that like just like that. I think that's when it gets crazy.
Yeah, it
You
gets
know?
dysfunctional, like, and I don't know, like I tend to have like an idealistic view. Like if everyone just came together and we all just appreciated ourselves and appreciated the creator and we all just worked together, it would all just come together perfectly. But like realistically speaking, like if you're in the situation, of course, like you said, like you'd have to iron it out. You'd have to adjust to it. It's an adjustment. Just like with anything, like you said, like people want things overnight, but the process of really coming into this, like it's been near almost, I mean, when I'm 29, it'll be over 10 years it's over 11 years that I've been um doing this on this path of like plant-based eating. Like first I came into the knowledge, then I started to practice fasting, and then I started to practice breath work a little bit further in, like, and then I started to study about breatharianism, understanding why you're eating raw vegan is because you're training your body to need less by nourishing it properly so that your body can sustain itself on light instead of needing denser foods to feel fulfilled or nourished. Like it's like a process where you have to unlearn, and it can't happen overnight. And I feel like even with something like polygamy or like having multiple, it's a lot more about self-realization and understanding the purpose of coming together is for the greater good of all. It no
Yeah,
longer becomes an individualism type of situation. It's more about everybody. And I think that's
yeah.
more of a yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm saying that's not it's the same thing with the food. Like you're eating
Yeah,
because for food. I mean, for fuel to get something done, or for medicine, and it's like
yeah,
you're not eating for entertainment. I'm not having
yeah,
sex with these chicks just because they want to escape themselves or I want to escape myself. Like, so I think it just takes on a different shape when you're just like, I'm only having sex with this person. Like if you're talking to your first wife or whatever, however you're doing. Like, I'm only going to have sex with this person to make a child that we're going to establish a role for that's going to help support everything we got going on. It's not like I'm just going to just fuck her so I can, pacify her or whatever it is.
yeah.
It's like, it's
It's
totally for this
purposeful.
thing. Yeah. Like I'm
Yeah,
doing it so we can get another person that could assist in our growth.
yeah.
And,
Yeah,
and
and when you approach things like that, like people probably look at you like, they probably view that as like you're just like an alien. Like where's the 3D like where's the Roman antics? Where's the emotion? Where like it's so detached. It's such a
a, a technological or like mechanical way of going about things. You know, it's like when you look at like I'm doing this for strictly a purpose and it's no longer rooted in like sensuality or like I mean you can bring that into it. I'm not saying that that's not going to come out of it, but like when you're doing things with purpose, it kind of people kind of see it like there's no it's just dry. Like it's just like, oh, like, you know, it's really just to serve a purpose. It's like really a detached way of approaching like a whole type of relationship dynamic, even in something as polygamy. But when things are done with proper purpose, then
It's
everything
like
flows properly. You
it's
know,
like
like
detached. You're like detached but immersed, though. You're not
yeah,
like because I
yeah,
feel like if you're just doing it for euphoria, then you're really not like escaping. You're not. You know, what I mean, you're detached in the wrong way, kind of like
yeah,
you're not even
yeah,
really you're not even really there. And I think that
yeah,
that's how you get like the envy and the greed and the
yeah.
insecurity.
Then
If you
yeah,
just do it, I think tantra or the tantric sex. I think that would be cool to have in there. I guess if you're like you want to get to know somebody, you don't want to be like, hey, my name is John, and then you be like, so we're gonna bang one time, and then you be pregnant. I
yeah.
think you want to like build up whatever y'all rhythm is or whatever, so it's like their body can relax. But I don't think it's supposed to be like, yo, I'm just fucking because right now there's nothing else to do. So I don't
Yeah,
really,
like it's
you know.
so it's like eating when you're not even hungry. Like you're just doing something and it's purposeless. And then there's a cleanup for it. Like you have to clean up after that. Like there's a cleanup. Like everything you do, it leaves behind residue that you it's like why make the mess if it's unnecessary? Like why do that? So
Yeah,
it's kind of like when you do things with intention and purpose, it doesn't really leave a trail of mess behind it that you have to kind of clean up. You kind of just, you know, it just keeps everything simplified and that's why like guys like to ask me like, "Oh, do you like to cook?" And I'm like, "I don't really like being in the kitchen that long." And plant-based. I've been plant-based for 10 years, so everything I know how to make is going to be like I haven't my mom like I grew up in a Caribbean household. So like jerk chicken, curry chicken and rice, you know, oxtail, ackee and saltfish, like all that stuff is a part of like my culture, but like because I went vegan at 18 and prior to 18 I had all my meals provided because I was an athlete for the a big part of my teens, like my pre-teens into my like late early adolescence. um I really never had to really cook. Like I was always on the go, traveling, going to tournaments and stuff. Like my stepfather provided me with whatever I needed. My mom provided, like I wasn't really raised learning to cook like that. So for me, it's like I don't like being in the kitchen that long. I really don't. I feel like I'd rather just make a salad. That takes me about maybe 10 minutes max. And I enjoy that, or I'll cut up some fruit. Like I just don't feel like being in the kitchen that long. I'll do it if it's for someone else. But for me personally, I like to just sit and create something quickly and eat it and go about my business. And a lot of guys will ask, like, oh, can you cook and stuff? Because they're thinking, you know, are you a traditional woman? And, you
yeah,
know, if I choose to be with you, can you take care of me in that way? And that's another thing too. Like it kind of creates insecurity for me because a lot of men they like that stuff. And if you tell them, well, you know, like I can make you like this vegan dish and stuff like that, a lot of times they don't really like that. You know, I well from my
yeah,
experience, like black, you know, black guys, you know, they like certain types of foods. Not all. There are black men out there that are vegan too, but I'm speaking
yeah,
for the ones that I've come across. You know, there's little things that there are little disconnects. And because I do love like I guess you could say pro-black in the sense that I do love black men and I choose to procreate with black men. Like that to me is something where like because I feel like that would be beneficial to them too. But then they don't see the value in what I have to offer in that way. So it kind of makes it look like I'm not really bringing anything like, you know, it's like the value systems of a lot of Black people are not really on that level where, like, a woman that will make you a fruit bowl or make you a smoothie or make you a green juice is seen as like, damn, like, she's like amazing. Like, she's taking care of me. Like, she wants me to live a long life. Like, you know, it's more like,
oh, she can't make me oxtail and rice and, and rice and peas and all this stuff. Like, she's not even really motherly. Like, and it's like, I don't even have children right now. And I think about my children all the time. Like, what kind of mother would I want to be for them? So I need to make sure that I eat well and take care of my body so that I can carry them properly and I can be like wise and intelligent before they get here. To me, that's how I view being like, I'm preparing already. And I'm not saying like if it's in God's will for me to have children, then, it's in God's will. But if, I want to make sure that I'm prepared for that, and like I would want the man that I'm with to be taken care of in a way that will benefit him. I don't want to bring anything that's going to bring him down, by feeding him things that are going to bring him down. So, but like when you tell a man that you don't make that stuff, that it kind of just they look at you like that's not appetizing, you know what I mean? And it's like I'm someone that I would I'll learn how to make, chicken and like baked chicken and rice or curry chicken and rice just to give it to you. Even though I won't eat that, I want to make you happy in that way. But
Yeah.
like I know deep down that like, there are things that you could do to maximize your health and do things differently. But like I said, I'm never gonna force somebody to be a certain way. So I feel like when you're
Yeah.
on this path and stuff and you know yourself and you know what works for you, I think there's just a lot of acceptance and compassion and like there's just a lot of allowing because you realize that like it's very few and far between that you'll meet somebody that really resonates with you in that way where they see the value in the things that you see the value in. Like,
Yeah.
so you have to kind of yeah,
I think on a subconscious level too, like, you're gonna create conflicts if you feed them poison. They might not
exactly,
know, but
exactly. You can't win.
somewhere they know, some part of them knows. Especially if you're dealing with black dudes, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Because they're not aware of their own awareness a lot of the times. So
yeah,
like,
like
I mean, that shit knows. So, but
exactly.
I guess I don't know if you want to speak to that, man. Because I feel like I talk about that a lot, and I don't really get a lot of black women that want to talk about that, or in general, I don't really get a lot of black chicks that want to go on podcasts. So like, I think uh when I talk about this shit, people think I'm being like racist or like I guess like self defeating or what. But I just be being honest about like like how people is designed for certain things, and I'd be like, man, like I don't want to get in between. Like when I look at like if I look at it almost like, man, if there's a black chick that wants to be with me, like it would have to be like a very special circumstance because I'd be like, otherwise I'm just looking at like this bitch is mentally ill, bro, or like something something is wrong.
Man,
Has she
man,
not?
man,
Has she never met a black dude? That's how I be feeling. Like,
man. I'm telling you, and the thing is too, like I know, like you've been very open on social media about like your like where you come from. Like your mother is a mixed race woman, and then your father is white. So like and then you grew up around predominantly black people. So like I get it. Like I understand and I know that not all mixed people look the same. Like there are some mixed people that are black passing, I guess you can say. Like you look at them, you're like, "Oh yeah, that person's black." You look at this mixed person and they have like blonde hair and blue eyes, but then their mom is like dark skin or whatever. Their dad is dark skin and their mom is white, whatever the case may be. So like but like at the end of the day, I can recognize, I can sense energy and I know that where like I get where you're coming from when you say like the part of you that is like that has that it comes out. And I feel like that's what black women are attracted to is that energy that comes from the roots, like your grandparents and stuff like that from your mom's side and stuff like that. So like I don't know, like I feel like the attraction I feel like is when because you're aware of yourself and like you're honest with yourself. And I feel like for a lot of women, or for me specifically, when a man is aware of himself and he's confident in who he is, I feel like that draws women in a lot because we're like, this guy is he can hold himself without me, like he has his shit together. And I feel like on a subconscious level we're attracted to that. And I think for a lot of black women, I think that's the energy, like we're seeking that and we're looking for that within our own men. And a lot of men are looking for women that reflect their moms, especially if they were raised by single mothers. and like they want a woman that will take care of them like their mom, and that's why a lot of these women end up in relationships with men who are in those positions, like where they end up like I don't know. There's just a lot of effeminate men within the Black community, and I mean, it isn't you being racist. I mean, when you know yourself as a Black woman, like my friend and I, we talk about that all the time. Like, I don't care. I don't care how messed up the Black community is. But I feel like it's not fair to my offspring to create a like to make them half race. And the reason I say that is because they have to go through all of this stuff to prove that they're like, I don't want you to have to do that. I want you to know who you are, and I don't want you to have to fight people or defend yourself. Like if you know what I mean? Like I don't know. And people say, "Oh,
Yeah.
love is love." Like, you can love,
Right.
and yeah, you can love people, but you can love people and not be with them. Like, I'm sorry, like this is more than just my personal feelings. Like I'm not thinking just about myself when I choose to procreate with
Yeah.
somebody, you
I
know.
look at old videos back in the day when it was talking about segregation. They'd be interviewing white people, and they'd be like, "Look, you can be together, but don't have no babies." And then I know people be like, "That's racist." But now, as I'm older, I'm like, "Nah, bro, they was on it, man. They knew."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
And
y'all can
other
hang out and
races
shit.
understand.
Y'all can hang
Yeah,
out
like
and
other
shit. You know
races
what I
get
mean?
it.
But to have
Yeah,
a fucking having a baby is another thing.
exactly. And like other races get it though. Like you don't really see too many Indian people or like Asian. Like I'm not saying that they're doing it for that reason, like, but they stick with their own. You know what I mean? And I feel like, to be honest, like I have a level of respect for people that just like they don't do that. Like I don't know, there's a guy named Dr. Umar. I don't know if you've heard of him or have seen him on Instagram, but he talks about that
Yeah.
all the
From
time. All the
from
time.
the Hidden Colors documentary.
I think so. He's like a heavy set guy, and
Yeah,
he's
yeah, yeah,
always
for sure.
yeah, he's always talking about like
Yeah.
like he's so funny to me. But like he basically talks about that, and like I genuinely resonate with it. Because I learned about it, and it was from like what you were sharing too. But like I just feel like, I don't know, for me, like I kind of want to keep my roots strong. And I know that might sound very whatever. Like I don't even care. Like I want to keep it, like I want to stay close to the vine or whatever is possible. I want to like keep my lineage going in that way. So I don't want to do that to my offspring. I have nieces and nephews that are half Asian and half Black, and like all of them look Asian, you know what I mean? Like they don't, and when they get older, like they're gonna have to explain, like, no, my grandmother, because they can't really say their dad, because my brother he's Black, but he has blue eyes and fair skin. And my stepfather is a fair skinned Trini man. So like he came out with blue eyes and fair skin, and then he got with he married an Asian woman, and they had children. So the DNA, like you don't even see an ounce of anything. And then my mom looks like me, so they're gonna be like, yeah, well, my grandmother, she's Black, like she's a Jamaican woman, she's a Black woman. But like you gotta really, it creates an identity thing for a lot of mixed race people, and they to like speak up for themselves in that way. And it's like, and then they have to unlearn and unwire and realize, it's a whole bunch of stuff that has to happen. I mean, obviously I don't know fully because I wouldn't say that I'm a mixed person in that way. I'm not completely blue Black. Out somewhere there's a mixture, but like, like there is going to be a disconnect. And like for me, I would much prefer my child not to have to go through all of that. And then obviously there are other social things the Black child, if it's a boy especially, and stuff, will have to go through. But I want my children knowledge of age, and to love themselves and to know who they are, and to respect themselves and stuff, and respect as well. But even though I do braids, like I do know that there is a subconscious thing going on there, but seeing that women use that for convenience, and then as a white woman taking it upon yourself to capitalize off of that and charge them prices that you're charging, it just it really just throws me off, like off a cliff. Like I'm just like, I don't feel like that. There's just something off about it. And that's the same type of feeling I get when I see Black men like purposely, like Chris Brown, for example. Like, it's just like you can just kind of see that a person is like, I don't know. I don't know, but there's something weird that I sense when I see these things happening. And I just feel like, everybody loves blackness.
Hello? Yeah. Hello?
You can hear me?
Yeah, yeah. No, everybody does, man.
Yeah, it's like an aesthetic thing. And then, like for white women, it's like they like the idea of mixed kids. And I even hear Black people talking about it too, like, oh, they would make a really good mix or a good blend. And I'm just like, that's colorist and that's features. But I guess, I don't know. There's just a lack of self-knowledge and self-awareness. And then it just, people's actions come from the void, right? If everything comes from nothingness, then when someone does something, it makes you think like, where was the origin? Like, where is the origin of that decision? Because it and it's funny because in my 5-year relationship, his brother actually has a white wife, and they have mixed kids, and he's a super athlete, and then his son and his daughters, they're good, but it's like he knows, like if he had had them with a Black woman, like how much more dominant they probably would have been. And I
Yeah.
feel
And
like when
I
you
argue with dudes. I argue with dudes about that all the time, man. When they be
yeah
like, because they think like, look, I'm a Black man, or I can just do whatever. And I'm like, yeah, you pretty, you strong. You can kind of do whatever. But bro, you're nice because your mom, bro. Like your mom has a big role in the reason why you're good at
yeah
sports or whatever.
yeah
You know?
yeah and they do say like mixed kids with Black moms are like, they're more superior, than the ones that have white moms. But you know what, like you got to just pull out, you got to, like, that's why I say, like, when it comes to this path and like, the like detoxing your body, healing yourself as much as possible, like a lot of people, even people who are just white, like you got to build your melanin, you got to build it. You got to just like, you got to graft yourself in pretty much, and do what you can. And that's the thing, like Black people, I wouldn't say Black, because, not everyone has like the same amount of melanin despite the skin or whatever. But like, I would say that like, you already have a head start, you know, and it's so sad that the people that are given the most, like they're the ones that run away from it, because I see so many people that are vegan that are white, like raw vegans and all that, like they're all pushing this journey and going hard, and then the people that have all the gems and the natural born stuff, you know, like they're the ones that are like, you know, on drugs, and not only them, but like, you know, like there's a resistance to it, and it's like, but I guess it just happens like that, you know. But he who much is given, much is required, you know, and we are not exempt. Like we have to make use of the gifts that we have, even if we have a parent that is black and one that's white. We got to just draw upon as much of our DNA from that side that we can, and like master ourselves. But you know, recessive traits do affect you. And I know for me, like I'm a brown skinned black girl, so I know somewhere down in the line, like there has been mixtures. But I'm grateful that I still have enough to where I can, you know, I didn't even get into like astral projection and all that, and how one of my nieces actually astral projected. And everyone was like, whoa, like that happened to Auntie Lisa. And I talked to her about it, and then I showed her the movie. I think the movie's Insidious, where they talked about the little boy. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's like a horror
Yeah,
movie
it's like
where
four
they
of them,
talked about
right?
the little boy. Yeah. He he left out his body, and then his dad had to go meditate and leave his body to go find him, and then a demon came in his body and entered into the human world or whatever. But yeah, like Hollywood knows. They know the stuff, they know the information. Like I've seen myself sleeping before, and I'm like, okay, so, and this is kind of part of what also pushed me towards this, because this happened to me when I was like 13, like 13, 12. And this was before I even knew about any of this stuff. And I said, damn, like, why do I keep, and this is like at the peak of my athleticism when I was playing hard, like soccer games, tournaments, like just heavy into like exercise. Like I was eating meat at the time too, but I feel like because I was so, you know, at that time, I don't think I was as tainted from certain things that have happened to me. I don't think I had as much trauma. So I was able to fully like come out, like my soul, like I could just come out like that. You know, I feel like trauma and like forgetting who you are and stuff can kind of lock you into your flesh a little more, to where you're not as free to like leave and come back. But even that was something I explored. And when I saw people talking about it when I got older, I'm like, yo, I did that before. Like I see now that this flesh is just a vehicle for me to be here. This is not me. Like I'm literally in this body, but I'm not this body. Like, you know, so it kind of, and then my niece, it happened with her. So I'm like, okay, so she's different. You know, she has a big soul, a lot of light. So like, I don't know, man, like there's just there's a lot that you're given, and you just have to make use of it and don't waste it. You know, God, I say God, but I don't speak of him as somebody external, but like the God in you, the part of you that is connected and that is aware of of the present moment, that presence is not is very intelligent. And you know, you got to utilize, you got to allow your body space to allow that intelligence to express itself. And the best way to go about doing that is to prioritize the breath, prioritize, you know, taking care of your body and this vehicle that you're given, because you can't trade it in. You know, you can get a new one in another lifetime, but in this lifetime, this is the only car you got. So you got to feel it right, take care of it, you know, make room, make space for to be still, you know, and you know, pour into other cups as much as you can, like share the knowledge and the wisdom. Um, and you know, have compassion for yourself along the way, because it's not an easy path. You're surrounded by all these different technologies, the TV, the phones, the wires. Unless you're rural like yourself, it's a lot of air pollution on a technological level. There's a lot of buzzing, low frequency sounds, and a lot of stuff like that going on. And then you're surrounded by people that don't know themselves, and you have to navigate their emotional state while you're also keeping yourself balanced, to where you have to take breaks and do like a few breath deep breaths while you're like in a social setting. Like I was at my mom's birthday, her
Yeah, you
60th
gotta
birthday.
catch you gotta catch a few sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. Like I'm at my mom's 60th birthday and I'm sitting there at the table doing some diaphragmatic breathing just to keep myself centered because there's a lot of stimulation. And I'm just like, and then the thing with me too is like I like to do things in spurts. So I'll go and do breath work for like a few days and then play around for like a month and then come back and be like, okay, let me really take it serious. But I feel like you won't really see real results if you don't be consistent. And one thing I want people who are trying to learn how to breathe to know is like you're not always going to want to do it. You're not always going to want to get up and do it, and but then once you start to get into the groove of it and you start to see the benefits and you start to feel the effects, it's going to become something that you're going to want to do more of. It's to kind of just like working out. You're not always going to want to go and do it, because it's something that is it's against your cycle, like your cycle path, so it's like the parasites are so used to a routine, and when you start to do things that are different, the parasites have to change, like they have to go. So it's really about training your body to listen to yourself, and that requires some discomfort at first, because breath work is not something. I feel like the fear with breath work is how much yourself you're going to become, and how people are so afraid of being themselves. They avoid anything that will bring them to that.
It's
Um,
almost like like you're scared to exhale because you don't know if another breath is gonna come. Because like if you fucking start doing that, changing your body and be more yourself, it's like everything got to go away. That doesn't really reflect who you are, and so things got to
yeah.
go away. You know what I mean? But then it's like it's not like things are not like what I mean. It's just other. It's just to welcome other things and other people. But
And that's the sad part.
yeah, that space between exhale and inhale though, like on a
It's the death.
metaphysical, yeah, you're
It's
like
the
fuck.
death of all that's not you that's scary, because you've built so many identities and belief systems around the certain way that you are. And that's the fear. Like if this dies, like who am I? Like what is like,
What's left?
it's like, yeah, what's left? Like what do I do? Like, and it's the unknown, like and even with relationships, like I think you also said something like, if both people are unhealthy, then it's easier for them to stay together. But when someone starts prioritizing their health, now it's like, here come the problems, like here comes the rift. Now this person is a lot more sensitive to that perfume. You love wearing it. And at one point you loved the fact that you guys that you love that they wore that. Now it's like, I don't want you to wear that around me. It smells weird. Now there's a problem because you're more sensitive to sense now, because you cleared your senses because you're eating better. So now your body is actually functioning better. So like everything just starts to become a problem. Whereas before it was like you were in perfect harmony because you both were resonating on the fact that you both were unwell, or you both had the same level of sickness at the time. So it's
Yeah,
like you when you're starting to grow and evolve, I think like another difficult part is that you have to accept that a lot of things have to die, and it's not necessarily like the people that you were once close to and the things that you once enjoyed have to be sacrificed. But something does have to give when it comes to this lifestyle. And I think that's the hardest part, is letting go of everything that you thought you knew and everything that you thought you were. It's the sadness that comes with who you thought you were not no longer being there. And then who does that what does life have in store after that? And like a lot of times it's like we need something to hold on to. And that was what happened to me. Like when I dedicated that week to breath work and fasting and getting in nature, I feel so light that I thought that I could really just die. I was like, okay, like death is right there. Like if I wanted to like consciously die, I could do it. But then I'm like, I need to hold on to something because I feel like I'm dying right now. Like I didn't understand. Even till this point, like I don't fully understand like the psychological state that I was in, but I understood that death was right there. Like I was so close to it. but not in a bad way. It was more like I was so connected that I was like I died to my ego kind of thing, but not in like the DMT way where like I did drugs and or not drugs, but like where I did like shrooms and I'm like, oh, like I had ego death. Like this was sober.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I didn't do anything that I didn't
You went
take any
through
substances.
you went through the front door. You didn't go through the back door.
Yeah, yeah. And then I realized I'm like, oh, so that's what people are talking about when they say they had ego death when they did DMT or they did acid or they did, and I'm like, okay, now I get it. And then there's this guy on YouTube. I think I can't remember his name. I think it's Actualize Yourself or something. This bald white guy. he um he talks about that. He's like, a lot of people do shrooms and they do.
Damn, I can't hear
Hello.
you.
Yeah, you can hear me now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I don't know where I cut off at, but
It
what I wanted
records, I
to say.
think. It records whether I hear you or not, I think. So it's fine.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's good then. So basically what I was saying was that he said that if you do these substances and you don't integrate it into your sober life, you're not going to be able to, like, basically all of these substances have something to teach you and you need to integrate it so that you're not dependent on it, because a lot of times, like, I would watch YouTube videos of people's DMT trips and people's acid trips and shroom trips, and I would hear people saying like they don't, oh, I saw these figures and I saw these beings, or I realized this and I realized that, or they'll be like, I don't really remember what I learned or whatever. But it's like all of these substances will open your mind to understanding things on a deeper level, and then you have to integrate it. And when you abuse things, it's kind of like it becomes null and void. Like you're not really getting from it what you need to, in a sense. It's more like you're just trying to escape, and the purpose of it is not to escape, it's to integrate the wisdom and the knowledge that these substances are giving you, like shrooms and stuff. Like, it's teaching you something. um and yeah, so like I would look into that, and I think with that, like, I realized, like, oh, this is why people are using these things. Like, this is why people do these things, is so that they can have a better understanding of reality and themselves. And for me, that was what happened, but I didn't do anything to get there. I just fasted and did breath work. I just inhaled, oxygen. I held it in my lungs for as long as possible, and I wasn't eating, so it was making it more intense for me. There weren't any blockages. And so a lot of my areas that were ignored, that have been ignored for a while, were getting blood flow. And then I was able to hear different parts of myself, like my heart. I was able to hear that. When that opened, that really was like what really got me shook, when my heart space became more like clear, is when I started to kind of like see, like, I would look in someone's face and I could see that they're upset. And then I'm starting to feel sad because I'm like, something's going on, like, or my friend will say something and I see where that's coming from. Like, I could see their personality so clearly now. Like, the part of them that I could see their disconnections so clearly, is when your heart chakra is open, and when and I guess your third eye, like, dreams are more intense. You close your eyes and then your brain, like, your thoughts are all, it was like a DMT trip. And then it made me think about that guy that was talking about how, like, in I think it was 2023, or the Great Reset, where like everybody is gonna have like a DMT trip or whatever. I genuinely felt like that was in the air at that time as well, to where like you do kind of want to like not kill yourself, but it's like you're so aware that you don't even, you want to shut it off, you know? And I feel like that's the biggest fear, is like being so aware that you just don't want to hear it, like you don't want to see it. It's kind of like like you just don't want to be that aware. It's very, it's frightening, you know? And um doing that sober just made me realize that you can accomplish that without really, you don't need the substance to do it, but you can use that if you want to kickstart, you know, if you want to just, but when you shoot from 0 to 100, instead of going from 0, 1, 2, 3, make sure that you can integrate when you shoot up like that, you know, because you'll come back down from the high and you can't remember, like you can't remember what you got from it. Whereas for me, like it comes back to me in bits and pieces, because since then, like I've gone back to eating, you know, more heavily, um, and kind of being more human. But I mean,
It'll cycle back around.
yeah. Yeah, like I went back down to being human again, because I'm like, yo, if I stay like this, everyone, my mom's gonna probably think I need to be on medicine or go into a home or something. And I'm not, like it's like you're telling people you're not crazy, but then everybody's like, but you're different from everybody else. You know what I mean? It's like, but I'm telling you that like I don't know, it's insane. Even going into a church, like during that time, I went into church with my mom, and it was so overwhelming. Like I really was like, because I understood what the pastor was saying on a deep level, you know, and it's like I'm looking around me and I'm just like, it's like you don't really need to be there kind of thing. Like when you're on that level, it's like, okay, like I'm here, but I don't really need this. But it's nice to hear someone reiterate what's already inside of me. But I don't need this because I'm not sick anymore. Like I get it. So you kind of can just go, you know, and that's why they say Jesus came to heal the sick, because there were people that were sick and they were mentally like not, their souls needed help, and he came with the water to like to quench them, you know. And then instead of people looking at that like, okay, let me take this information, integrate it, and master myself and then be a light, you know, this guy is trying to be God, he's trying to be better than us, he's trying to, you know, so let's kill him, like, you know, let's come for him. Like the hateration and just the betrayal and all that stuff, and it happens every day. Like this is not a new situation, you know. It's not an
Yeah.
old, this is stuff that happens all the time. People who are your friends, who are cool with you, and then to go as far as not even addressing him by his name, proper name, and then, you know, the crusades going around and slaughtering indigenous communities for not accepting, and then the Black community still going and following along with it. And I'm telling my mom, like, his name wasn't Jesus and he wasn't white, you know. But I mean, you know, like at the end of the day, we just have to allow people to go with what is going to help them. Everybody's on, you know, everyone's on different levels, and there's no one better than anyone else. And like you said
Yeah.
very well, like, you know, there's different levels of sickness. um we're all sick to a certain degree, but there's just different levels to it. I think,
Yeah. I think
you
people
know, like,
figure it out. They figure it out in life or they figure it out in death.
yeah. And I told my friend that, and she laughed because it was so real. I said to her, I'm like, sometimes the best teacher is dying, because like when I died while awake, it scared me so bad. Like it was so, the realizations were
Yeah.
so intense that I said I can't, I have to commit my life to God. Like it was almost like I got baptized without having to go to the church. Like I, like the tears and the crying was like guttural, like it was deep. It was
Yeah.
deep, you know?
I, yeah. I think people get it, but they get it like, you know, when they die like that, when they die all like unconsciously. I think they get it, but then it's just like all at once, and then they're like, "Fuck, so much understanding at once," and then they want to come back. Their will wants
Yeah.
to come back because they're like, "Fuck, I get it, but I don't want to. I don't want it to be like a drive by. I want to fucking really understand it, like completely, like taking the integral path, like gradually every day, realizing it more and more instead of like living a dead life all my life and then actually dying and then I'm alive for like the last minute."
Exactly. And that's what happens. You realize at the last minute. And then by that point, your body, and then too, like your body can't even really handle it. Like the love of God, like that love is so intense that it can kill you. Like that's what I felt. Like if you're not strong enough to handle like the truth like that all at once, like it really can just take you out. And it's so intense. And that's what they talk about. Like, they be on point with the things that they say, but I feel like it's very few that really feel like have actually experienced that where they didn't have to go to anything external. It's very intense. And I feel like it's a very high frequency, like the love of the creator or Allah or the divine or the Tao or whatever that presence, the love is it's so unfathomable and it will literally just crush you. That's how intense it is, and because it's like you see your human self from that perspective and then you have so much compassion. It's like, yeah, I was smoking for so long and I was messing around with different girls and I was doing all that, but you look at yourself in those stages with love. It's not like you're judging yourself. You're more like, I love you because I see now like why you did that, like what you were running from. Like I see now that like, your dad wasn't there for you and so you did this. Like the love that you have for yourself when you're seeing yourself through the eyes of the one that sees everything. You know what I mean? It's kind of like now you see like the love that like the unfathomable love that is really there for you because now you're seeing yourself in your human mind and you're like, okay, like I forgive you. Like I had to really sit there and be like, I forgive you. Like I forgive you. Like, and then when people around me are doing things and I don't have a heavy heart anymore, it's like, okay, like I get it, and then you also understand that a lot of us bring things onto ourselves. So like you're killing yourself already and then someone comes and kills you. I mean, like it was ultimately coming, but like you did that, you know what I mean? So it's like you have to also hold yourself accountable for the checks and balances and the returns of your actions. And personally for me, like I know if I eat something that's not like if I'm not compassionately eating, my life will reflect that. So if I'm, drinking smoothies for a week straight, that whole week is peaceful. I swear to you, it's literally a mirror reflection of what I'm consuming. And I'm like, this is insane. Like there's something to this. You fast for a week straight, that whole week is calm and relaxed. So what is that telling me? Like I'm literally like my life is mirroring me, and I'm really creating my experience based on how I'm treating my own antenna, which is my body. Like it just goes deep, man. Like like the more that you honor yourself, the more that life aligns with you and you start honoring life. Or life starts to reflect back to you your own self-respect. Life is going to give you what you're looking for and asking for based on how you
Yeah,
act and your behavior. Like it's not really what you say, but how you move and
yeah.
what
You
you're
gotta know how to
doing.
ask. You gotta know how to ask.
Yeah.
If you ask
Yeah.
him, if you ask him from like a spiritually poor place or whatever, you're just gonna get it. You're gonna get that. What I mean, if you're asking from like the truest place within you, then yeah, you're gonna get the truth back. So people don't be know how
Exactly.
to, they don't even know what they're asking for. I think.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of it's scary, like because you see the return so quickly when you start to
Yeah.
resonate on that frequency, and then that's what they're talking about when they talk about 5D. Like 5D consciousness is really just like you're in the flow of like you see the returns quickly. You do something, you see the return, like it comes right away. And then you realize that you're in alignment with the creator, like you and God are working together. So it's kind of like, okay, like, like I don't have something right now, but I know that I'm going to have it. Like if I align myself this way, like it'll come to me. So you're no longer chasing life. Like everything is abundant because you know that everything is being added onto you because you're no longer in that mindset that you're in lack. Like your vibrational frequency just attracts to you what it is that you need. And what you need is, it really depends on what it is that you need. Like it doesn't necessarily have to be a good thing too. Like everything is reflecting back.
It's gonna be objectively good. It's not gonna be like a good to like your personal, like I
Yeah.
mean, your
Yeah.
persona.
Yeah, exactly. Man, like like over here in Canada, like we're dealing with some severe inflation. Like it's so expensive in Toronto right now. And like some days like I'm like just only drinking juice. That's all I can really afford, Like and then it's like in a way people are saying inflation is bad and all this stuff, but it's like if anything this is teaching people to need less. I feel like this is forcing people to be more humble because I feel like people are only looking at things a certain way because people are so used to this consumerism lifestyle. But like,
Yeah,
what are you going to do when you can no longer afford to do these things anymore? Like, what are you going to do? How are you going to
yeah,
sustain yourself?
yeah. How much?
You know
How
what
much
I
are you
mean?
willing? How much are you willing to compromise? You willing to get a vaccine?
Exactly.
You
Exactly.
willing?
And then
Yeah,
now I'm looking around in my kitchen for things to like prepare and I'm like, "Oh, I have this." Like, oh, so like I never really lacked anything. It's just it's all a mindset. You know what I mean? And then when you're eating raw vegan and when you're vegan and stuff, like honestly, like you really can be fine on a little bit, like you on a little bit of money, really. I mean, it obviously, this is different for
yeah,
different people with their situations, but like you can sustain yourself on less when you are living in that type of lifestyle. There's less desire to need more. And
yeah. Living
yeah,
on just rice and lentils and stuff. Most of their diet.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It's simple, and um
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
So I mean, my
I mean,
client is here.
yeah, I'm about to say,
It's
yeah. I know you're about
7.
to go to. I know you're about to do your thing, man. No, thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, let's. Like, I guess next time, man, if you want to do another, we can get into like politics and we get into the shit on, boots on the ground in Canada. Let me know what you're seeing up there.
Oh yeah, yeah. I can let you know there's a lot going on this side. For sure, for sure. Like we will definitely do this again. Just let me know and I'll make space for it. And we can have another chat.
All right, well, I'm not gonna hold you then, Lisa, man. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. And I hope that everybody uh got something out of this and stay encouraged and keep doing your best. Don't beat yourself up for not being perfect because I know for me that's been a challenge. You're not always going to do everything perfectly, but as long as your actions are in alignment to the best that it can be, then you'll be fine. Just stay the course and don't give up.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, it'll be great to do it again, man. I'm not gonna hold you. I know you got, work to do,
Yeah,
and thanks again.
no problem. All
Talk to
right,
you
talk to you
soon.
soon. All right.
Peace.